Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 854. At the same time. Looking at the arrogant and insufferably arrogant Fatso, Mu Qing's mouth twitched violently. She secretly said, "Brother Qin, aren't you going to stop him?" "Why should I stop him?" Qin Feiyang asked rhetorically. Mu Qing said, "This is the trading pavilion. People who make trouble here will not have a good ending. You have to remember one thing. It's not us who are making trouble. It's them who are making trouble first." Qin Feiyang said lightly. He was also very puzzled. The place where they were standing now was more than 10 meters away from the door of the trading pavilion. How could such a wide distance hinder his business in the trading pavilion? They were obviously looking for trouble. His style had always been that if you respected him, he would respect you tenfold. But if they were looking for trouble, he was not afraid of trouble. Yan Wei whispered, "Why do I feel that they are looking down on us?" Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were stunned. They looked at the two guards in black and then glanced at the crowd around. They found that there was a trace of disdain on the faces of these people more or less. "I understand. It must be because our current appearance is too ordinary. Especially you, Mu Qing. Look at you, dressed like this. If I were you and blocked my door, would also drive you away." Yan Wei said helplessly. "Ah." Mu Qing said in surprise, "So, I am too low-key? What do you think?" Yan Wei rolled his eyes. The status of the divine city here was equivalent to the imperial capital of the central divine kingdom. The people here, no matter how poor they were, would dress decently. Unlike this guy, who was dressed like a beggar. Of course. It did not mean that Mu Qing's current appearance was really sloppy and terrible. Although his clothes were a bit old, they were still clean. But compared with the other people's dressing, he was really no different from a beggar. Keeping a low profile can also attract trouble. Mu Qing began to feel unhappy. He had disguised himself to enter the god's city so that he wouldn't attract any attention. Who would have thought that it would have the opposite effect? Whoosh! Suddenly, he landed beside Fatso and blocked the door with Fatso. He said arrogantly, "If I don't cause a ruckus today, I'll write my name backwards." "Ah." Fatso was surprised. Then, he hooked his arm around Mu Qing's shoulder and chuckled, "Fat Lord realized that you're not that bad after all. Get lost. Do I know you that well?" Mu Qing's face darkened. If not for the anger in his heart, he would not have accompanied Fatso to do such a childish thing. "You," seeing this. The two black-clothed guards were about to explode from anger. "What about us? Since you guys don't know how to treat your guests, yours truly will have to teach you guys a lesson." Mu Qing sneered. "Guest? With your shabby appearance, how can you be worthy of being my trading pavilion's guests? Let me tell you, if you know what's good for you, scram immediately. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." The two guards said with disdain. "You're welcome, then let me tell you, if you don't apologize to me today, no one will be able to enter this door, and no one will be able to come out." Mu Qing crossed his arms and looked at the two of them in ridicule. These two people were not weak. They were both 9-star war sect, so he was definitely not their match. But he wasn't afraid at all. Because right now, there were 3 lawless and ruthless characters here. Naturally, it was Qin Feiyang, Fatso, and Yan Wei. "You're courting death." The two black-clothed guards were enraged. At the same time, they stepped forward and slapped Fatso and Mu Qing. "Are you really going to make a move?" Fatso's gaze turned cold. "Not only are we going to make a move, we're going to cripple you. We'll let you know the consequences of causing trouble in my trading pavilion." A cold light flashed in their eyes. "Cripple us?" Fatso's eyes narrowed slightly. Boom! A terrifying pressure suddenly surged out. But it wasn't Fatso, it was Yan Wei. The holy might was like a waterfall, instantly imprisoning the two guards in place. And Yan Wei's move was naturally instructed by Qin Feiyang. What? This is actually the holy might. The two guards' faces changed. The surrounding crowd also turned pale with fright. They never thought that there would be a war saint hidden among these inconspicuous people. How dare you be rude to my young master's friends? Even if it's your trading pavilion, this old man won't agree. Yan Wei said expressionlessly. At this moment, he was a white-haired old man, but it didn't affect his domineering aura in the slightest. Young master? Who is his young master? Could it be him? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang, their eyes filled with bewilderment. In fact, everyone was already used to this kind of thing. Because in the divine city, many young people would have a follower by their side. Among these followers, there was no lack of powerful warriors of the war saint level. However, without exception, all the young people who had followers were not simple. In particular, these followers were war saints. After all, a battle saint, no matter where they were, was a top-notch expert. Therefore, it was only at this moment that they realized that these people were not poor at all. All of a sudden, the place fell into dead silence. Smack! But suddenly, a loud slap sounded, breaking the atmosphere here. Everyone looked over and their pupils suddenly constricted. They saw that Fatso was slapping the two guards hard. And he was merciless. Every slap landed solidly on their faces. In less than 5 breaths. The two of them suffered dozens of slaps and screamed in pain. Their faces were swollen like a pig's head. We were wrong. We were blind, please spare us. The two of them couldn't help but beg. Wrong? What were you doing earlier? Fatso sneered and punched the two of them in the mouth again. The two of them immediately spat out blood and their teeth were all broken. Ruthless enough. The surrounding crowd muttered in their hearts. Although the two of them were indeed in the wrong, there was a saying that one had to look at the owner before beating a dog. These two people were the guards of the transaction pavilion. Shouldn't they leave some face for the transaction pavilion? Of course. If he insisted on beating them, no one would dare to say anything. But he could change places. But right in front of the entrance of the transaction pavilion, wasn't this equivalent to slapping the face of the transaction pavilion? How could the transaction pavilion endure this? Fatso retracted his arm and retreated back to block the door. He laughed happily. Now you feel good, quickly apologize. After beating up the people of my transaction pavilion, you still want them to apologize. You are really awe-inspiring. But at this moment, a rather gloomy voice came from the transaction pavilion. It's the steward. The two guards trembled and looked inside the door as if they had seen their savior. Qin Feiyang also raised his head to look and saw a black-clothed old man slowly walking out of the transaction pavilion. The old man exuded a very strong aura. Yan Wei couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He transmitted a message: he should be a 9-star battle sage. So what? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Get out of the way. The old man in black stopped behind Fatso and Mu Qing. He glanced at the two of them coldly and said in a commanding tone. Steward, is it? You came at the right time. I was just about to ask, how does the transaction pavilion discipline its subordinates? Fatso and Mu Qing didn't move and looked coldly at the steward. You have beaten and scolded. Don't you think it's enough? The old man in black raised his eyebrows and said. Of course. We are injured mentally. It's not that easy to recover from mental injuries. Fatso grinned. The old man in black's eyes flashed coldly and asked, then what do you want? What do we want? Fatso and Mu Qing looked at each other and smiled. Fatso said, I want to ask, do we owe you money? No. The old man in black shook his head. Then why did you show up with a black face as if we owed you millions? You should know that we are the ones who are wronged now. And the transaction pavilion didn't discipline well. As the steward, shouldn't you apologize to us as soon as you come out? Or is your current attitude the way you treat your customers in your transaction pavilion? If that's the case, then I can only say that the transaction pavilion is really awesome. Fatso gave a thumbs up with a face full of admiration. However, anyone who understood the situation would be able to tell that he was mocking the transaction pavilion. The old man in black's eyes darkened. Now, he had an impulse to kill someone. But he knew that he had to endure it. Because there were too many people present now. If he made a move, the image of the transaction pavilion in the eyes of the world would completely collapse. Although this was just a small matter, the impact was very big. Okay. I apologize to the two of you on their behalf. However, even if they were in the wrong, shouldn't you not hit them? The steward held back his anger and said. Fuck. They said that they wanted to cripple us. Can't we fight back? The transaction pavilion is also overbearing. Is there any law? Do you really think that you are the ruler of the Forgotten Continent? Mu Qing said angrily. The steward frowned and looked at the two guards. He shouted, "What's going on?" The two of them stammered and couldn't say a word for a long time. You still don't know what's going on? Then why are you talking nonsense here? Come. Young master will explain it to you. Mu Qing was really angry. He had originally thought that the steward had seen everything that had just happened from inside the room. Who would have thought that he didn't know anything? This wasn't covering up, it was not right and wrong, and it was overbearing. This was even worse than covering up. After listening to Mu Qing's story, the steward was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. He looked at the two guards and said angrily, "Who gave you the right to treat the guests like this? We were wrong. We won't dare to do it again. Lord Steward, please be merciful and spare us this time." The two of them hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to beg for mercy. "I'll deal with you later." A cold light flashed in the steward's eyes. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the other three, and his attitude instantly changed. He cupped his hands and said, "I didn't ask clearly just now and wronged the four of you. Please forgive me." "That's more like it." Mu Qing sneered. Yes, it's my fault." The steward smiled apologetically. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Little brother, you see that I've apologized. Can you ask these two little brothers to not gamble at the door? After all, we still have to open the door to do business. Get out of the way." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said. Fatso and Mu Qing looked at each other, smiled proudly, and then retreated to the side. Yen Wei also withdrew his holy aura. The transaction pavilion is just a so-so. Chapter 855. N. There are so many people who are not afraid of death today. Everyone was stunned and looked at the person who spoke. At the same time, the steward raised his eyebrows and also looked up. Qin Feiyang and the other three also looked over. Ugh! At that moment, the four of them were stunned. This was really a small world. They saw a purple-clothed youth standing in the crowd. He hugged an enchanting woman and looked at the steward of the transaction pavilion with eyes full of ridicule. This person was Guoming. "Guoming, what do you mean?" The steward frowned. Guoming glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other three, hugged the enchanting woman and walked to the side of the two black-clothed guards. Although this matter is indeed the fault of these two big brothers, aren't they also protecting the image of the transaction pavilion by doing this? But what about you, steward? They were beaten up like this. Not only did you not make a decision for them, you even blamed them. It's really disappointing. Guoming said indifferently. The steward's eyes darkened, and said, "This is my transaction pavilion's business, it's not your turn to interfere." "I didn't say I wanted to interfere, I was just saying a word of fairness." "What? I can't even say a word?" Guoming sneered. The steward frowned. Was he possessed by evil spirits today? One after another, he came to make trouble. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. It could be seen that the steward was now in a very awkward situation. Guoming's intention was also very obvious. He wanted to provoke the steward of the transaction pavilion to make a move on them. What a despicable person. Qin Feiyang muttered, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and gave Fatso a look. Fatso understood and swaggered to the steward's side. Looking at Guoming, he laughed and said, I was wondering who it was, so it's you shameless dog couple. What did you say? The enchanting woman suddenly went crazy. She could still feel the pain of the slap in the Longfeng pavilion. Is there something wrong with your ears? I said you are a dog couple. Fatso laughed. Bastard, I'm going to tear you apart. The enchanting woman was so angry that her body trembled. She once again pounced on Fatso. Don't. Guoming hurriedly stopped him, but it was too late. The enchanting woman seemed to have gone mad as she pounced in front of Fatso, her eyes flashing with dense killing intent. Looks like the lesson I taught you at Longfeng Pavilion was not enough. Fatso smiled coldly and sent the enchanting woman flying with a kick. Next. He landed in front of Guoming in a single step, raised his arm, and slapped Guoming's face. Paw! A bright red palm print instantly appeared. Guoming was sent flying and smashed into the crowd behind him. He was in an extremely sorry state. The crowd was dumbfounded. The manager of the trading pavilion also had a look of disbelief on his face. Because they all knew. Guoming dared to be so arrogant because there was a massive force behind him. Even the trading pavilion had to be courteous to such a force. But he never expected that these unfamiliar faces would actually beat up Guoming on the street. Did they not know Guoming's family background? Or did they not care about the forces behind Guoming at all? Brat, I'll say it again. In front of us, you'd better be honest. Otherwise, even if your father is the Jade Emperor, I'll make you suffer. Fatso smiled coldly and turned around to walk into the trading pavilion with Mu Qing. Clown. Qin Feiyang glanced at Guoming and Mu Qing with disdain and also entered the trading pavilion with Yan Wei. The manager of the trading pavilion looked at Guoming and the enchanting woman, then looked at the backs of Qin Feiyang and the other three. His eyes flashed slightly and he also chased after them. The dignified young lord of the Scorpion tribe was actually beaten up like this. How pitiful. This is called evil people will be dealt with by evil people. The surrounding crowd also immediately cast gloating gazes at Guoming. However, Guoming turned a blind eye to these gazes. He stared at the backs of Qin Feiyang and the others, his brows filled with ruthlessness. Brother Ming, are you all right? The enchanting woman got up awkwardly and ran to Guoming's side with concern. Guoming shook his head, got up and glanced at the crowd. Suddenly, the crowd dispersed in an uproar. The enchanting woman said bitterly, Brother Ming, this matter can't be let go like this. Don't worry, anyone who offends me, I won't let him see the sun tomorrow. Wait for me here. Guoming turned around and walked into a secluded alley alone. Soon, he came out of the alley with a bone-piercing coldness on his face. Subsequently, he also entered the trading pavilion with the enchanting woman. There were more than 10 floors in the trading pavilion. The first floor was the reception. The second floor and above were the places where goods were sold. And the higher one went, the rarer and more expensive the goods were sold. At this moment, the manager was leading Qin Feiyang and the others to the second floor. When they walked to the stairwell, the manager asked calmly, May I know your names? Qin Day. Mu Qing took the lead and looked at Qin Feiyang, his face full of ridicule. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, but he was too lazy to care and was about to say a name casually. But before he opened his mouth, Fatso said first, My boss is called Ancestor Mu. Mu as in admire, ancestor as in ancestor, ancestor as in ancestor. After saying that, Fatty even tried to analyze it. The manager was slightly stunned and couldn't help looking at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing suspiciously. Why were the names of these two so strange? And why hadn't he heard of these two names before? At the same time, Mu Qing's face also darkened. The manager didn't know, but he knew that Fatso must have done it on purpose. What else could Qin Feiyang say? He could only smile helplessly. The manager glanced at Yen Wei, who was silent, and said, "May I ask which super tribe you two come from?" With the followers of the battle sage, he naturally thought that Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing came from a super tribe of the Central Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "You misunderstood. We come from the 9 regions. This is the first time we have come to the Central Divine Kingdom." The 9 regions? The manager was stunned. It turned out that they were not from the Central Divine Kingdom, and his attitude changed a little. But it was not obvious. But even so, it was clearly caught by Qin Feiyang. Previously, the manager thought they were from a super tribe, and there was a trace of flattery on his face. But now, when he heard that they were from the 9 regions, there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. Of course, Qin Feiyang wasn't someone who liked to haggle over minor matters. He turned his head to look at Mu Qing and Yen Wei, and said, "You two go stroll around first. I have some private matters to discuss with the steward." "Okay." Yen Wei nodded. "Private?" Mu Qing's eyes flashed slightly. She didn't ask anything and walked quickly to the second floor with Yen Wei. Fatso glanced at the two and then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "What about me?" "You follow me." Qin Feiyang said, turned to look at the manager and said, "Can we talk somewhere else?" "Sure." The manager looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and nodded. Then he turned and led Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing through a corridor and into a VIP reception room on the first floor. Entering the reception room, the manager didn't ask anyone to prepare tea. He directly closed the door and sat beside the tea table, saying, "Little brother, if you have something to say, just say it." "That's your attitude?" Fatso frowned. "I'm the one who neglected you. Little brothers, please sit down." The manager laughed, but he obviously looked a little impatient. "Boss, let's go. Anyway, we have plenty of money. We don't need to be nice to others' cold buttocks." Fatso was unhappy. Why were all the people in the trading pavilion like this? They were snobs. Hearing Fatso's words, the manager also felt a little uncomfortable and said with a strange smile, "To tell you the truth, our trading pavilion doesn't lack rich people. Let's go." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang turned and left. Everyone had their own bottom line, and this steward's actions had already exceeded his bottom line. He didn't want to stay in such a place for a moment longer. "Old thing, I can guarantee that you'll regret it soon." The fatty laughed mockingly. He turned around and followed behind Qin Feiyang, swaggering off. Regret? The manager didn't think so. What could a few people from the 9 regions do that would make him regret? "Go and ask Yen Wei to come down." Walking out of the reception room, Qin Feiyang said to Fatso. "Okay." Fatso nodded and quickly ran to the second floor. When Qin Feiyang came to the stairs, Fatso, Yen Wei, and Mu Qing also happened to come downstairs. "What's wrong? Why do you want to leave all of a sudden?" Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked. "This place disgusts me." Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly and walked to the door without looking back. Disgusted? Mu Qing and Yen Wei looked at each other, their faces full of doubts. "Here's the thing." Fatso sighed deeply and explained to the two as he chased after Qin Feiyang. "I see." Mu Qing suddenly understood and shook her head with a smile. "I have to say that the manager of the Northern City Trading Pavilion really has no taste. In fact, it's normal for him to be like this. Because in the eyes of the people of the Central Divine Kingdom, people from the 9 regions are very lowly. What's more, he is the manager of the Trading Pavilion." Yen Wei said. "But he doesn't know that he just brushed past a rich man." Fatso sneered. Well, let's go to the Eastern City District. As far as I know, the manager of the trading pavilion in the Eastern City is quite modest. Mu Qing thought for a while and said. Fatso shook his head and said, isn't it the same as giving money to the trading pavilion? Not going. You're wrong. Although they are both managers of the trading pavilion, they don't have a good relationship because of some factors. They even have been fighting openly and secretly. Mu Qing smiled. What factors? Fatso asked curiously. The position of the deputy pavilion master. Some time ago, I received the news that the deputy pavilion master of the trading pavilion is about to die, and he voluntarily asked to resign. In this way, the position of the deputy pavilion master must be filled. And the managers of the 4 districts of the Divine City are the main candidates. Mu Qing said. I see. Fatso and Yen Wei nodded. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he said with a smile, okay, let's go to the Eastern City District. Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, Fatso and the other 2 couldn't help but worry about the manager of the Northern City District. Chapter 856. Where are you going? But before the 4 of them walked out of the trading pavilion, Guoming and the enchanting woman stopped them with an extremely arrogant expression. Why are they making trouble again? The people coming and going all looked at the 2 of them in shock. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 of them, raised his eyebrows slightly and said, are you done? Of course not. In this divine city, no one has ever dared to ride on my head and behave atrociously. Guoming sneered. TSK, TSK, TSK. It seems that you 2 bitches don't learn from your mistakes. Fatso laughed mockingly. But unexpectedly, Guoming was not angry. Instead, he crossed his arms and said with a smile, continue to be arrogant. Fatso and the other 2 were surprised. Had this fellow been beaten silly just now? Qin Feiyang's eyes were also full of suspicion. After being humiliated twice in a row, any smart person would know to restrain himself. But why was this person getting more and more arrogant? Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes lit up. He smiled faintly and said, since you're so confident, you should have called for help. Don't waste time, call him out. Help? Fatso and the other 2 were shocked and quickly scanned the surrounding crowd. Young man, you're very smart. They saw a skinny old man in white walking out of the crowd. Expert. Seeing this old man, Fatso and the other 2's pupils shrank, and the fear was clearly visible. Qin Feiyang was not moved at all. He cupped his hands and said with a smile, thank you for your compliment. May I know who you are to Guoming? I don't even know this old man. Is this guy from the Central Divine Kingdom? Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, everyone muttered in their hearts. The old man was also a little surprised and said with a smile, I'm the high priest of the Scorpion tribe. Nice to meet you. Scorpion tribe? Qin Feiyang was stunned. What is the Scorpion tribe? Fatso asked Mu Qing secretly. The Scorpion tribe is one of the 10 super tribes of the Central Divine Kingdom. I forgot to tell you, Guoming is the son of the Scorpion tribe's chief. Mu Qing said. I see. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 suddenly realized why Guoming dared to be so arrogant. It turned out that he had a backer behind him. Looking at Qin Feiyang's expression, the old man frowned and asked with a smile, little brother, don't tell me you don't even know about my Scorpion tribe? Who doesn't know the Sky Scorpion tribe, one of the 10 great tribes? Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The high priest said, if that's the case, you should be clear about Guoming's identity. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Since you know, why don't you leave some face for my Scorpion tribe? The old man said with a smile on his face, but there was a hint of coldness in his tone. Qin Feiyang's heart was as meticulous as a speck of dust, and his insight was extraordinary. How could he possibly see through it? He smiled faintly and said, I don't know if you've heard of this saying, face is not given by others, but earned by oneself. What a glib tongue. The old man laughed and did not hide his anger. He said, "Then let me ask you, little brother. I don't know if you've heard of this saying, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind." Of course I've heard of it. However, this also depends on whether the wind can blow. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The old man's face suddenly became gloomy. What do you mean? Someone next to him was puzzled. Can't you see? The high priest of the Scorpion tribe came here to teach this person a lesson. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. He was threatening him. But this boy is not afraid at all. No. It's not that he's not afraid. He's very arrogant. What he means is that if the Scorpion tribe wants to deal with him, they have to see if they have the ability. Someone explained in a low voice. Damn, he directly challenged the Scorpion tribe. This boy is really arrogant. It seems that his identity is really not simple. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the guts. People whispered and their faces were full of curiosity. Humph. They're just people from the 9 districts. What identity can they have? But suddenly, a cold snort sounded with strong disdain. People from the 9 districts. Everyone was stunned and looked at the person who spoke. It turned out to be the steward of the trading pavilion. The manager walked out arrogantly with his hands behind his back. His gaze was filled with disdain as he glanced at Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu. Fu Anshan, are they really people from the 9 districts? The high priest of the Scorpion tribe glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other 3, then looked up at the steward and asked. He said it himself. Can it be false? The steward Fu Anshan smiled coldly and said, "If you want to make trouble, go out and do it. Don't hinder our business here." Swish. The people present once again turned their eyes to Qin Feiyang and the other 3. The look in their eyes changed. Disdain, ridicule, as if looking at a clown. I was wondering what kind of background you have. It turns out that you're just trash from the 9 districts. A bunch of trash dare to be arrogant in the divine city. You really don't know what you're talking about. Guoming and the enchanting woman also sneered. But in their hearts, they were more ashamed and resentful. They were actually humiliated by a few lowly people. This was simply unbearable for them. Looking at the faces of these people, Fatso was burning with anger and said, "Are the people of the Central Divine Kingdom great?" Of course. You people from the 9 districts are lowly and inferior to ants. Here, you have to bow and scrape like slaves and beg us to give you a meal. Guoming smiled proudly. Yes. Kneel down and repent immediately. You dare to bully the people of the Central Divine Kingdom. Regardless of right or wrong, you can't be forgiven. The surrounding people roared with righteous indignation. My bad temper, whether it's the Central Divine Kingdom or the 9 districts, they are all part of the Forgotten Continent. You people of the Central Divine Kingdom, what right do you have to look down on the people of the 9 districts? What right do you have to discriminate against others? Moreover, people come out of their mother's womb. Could it be that the people of the Central Divine Kingdom are all born of pigs? Are you born superior to others? Fatso was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. These people's discrimination was simply too much. You're the one born of pigs. Everyone, did you hear that? How did he scold us? Can you tolerate it? Anyway, I can't tolerate it. This kind of trash should be cut into pieces. Guoming roared, fanning the flames and bewitching the people. Yes, kill them. Damn lowly people, how dare they scold us? I can't tolerate it. The crowd roared with ferocious expressions. They couldn't wait to pull out the tendons and skin Qin Feiyang and the other 3. Swoosh. Seeing that the situation was not good, Yen Wei stepped in front of Qin Feiyang and looked at Qin Feiyang vigilantly. Fatso and Mu Qing also moved closer to Qin Feiyang, their faces rather gloomy. Even if you're a battle saint, I'm afraid you can't protect them today. Guoming smiled disdainfully and gave the high priest of the Scorpio tribe a look. Immediately, the high priest took a step forward, and a terrifying pressure surged towards the four of them. At the same time, the steward's eyes flashed and he also took a step forward, blocking Qin Feiyang and the other three. Originally, this old man didn't want to care about your previous rudeness. But I didn't expect you to be so arrogant and scold the people of the Central Divine Kingdom. This old man will definitely not tolerate this. Today, this old man will teach you a good lesson on behalf of your parents. The steward smiled coldly and a terrifying pressure rushed out of his body, pouncing toward Qin Feiyang and the other three. Damn. If this young master doesn't get angry, do you think this young master is a sick cat? You just wait for this young master. Mu Qing was furious and took out the image crystal. What do you want to do? Qin Feiyang frowned. Mu Qing said, of course I'll call someone to destroy them. No, this young master will raise this divine city to the ground today. Huh, did you hear that? He actually said that he wants to raise our divine city to the ground? Huh, he dares to say such words. He must be stupid. The crowd around him laughed wantonly. Stupid? Huh, you bunch of dregs, you simply don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Mu Qing laughed wildly. The battle chi in his palm gushed out and poured into the image crystal. You can't do this. Qin Feiyang snatched the image crystal from him. What is this? You can still tolerate it? Mu Qing frowned. I don't care if you can tolerate it or not, but don't ruin my plan. Qin Feiyang secretly said, his tone was rather cold. His biggest goal in coming to the Central Divine Kingdom this time was the five-colored crystal. If they really made a scene, it would definitely involve a lot of problems. At that time, there might not be a chance. Mu Qing said, then do you have a way to shut them up? It's very simple to shut them up. Don't forget, we still have a trump card in our hands. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, a pure gold token appeared. Seeing the token, Mu Qing and the other two's eyes lit up. Before you act, it's best to see clearly what this is. Qin Feiyang grabbed the token and raised it high. The pure gold token emitted a dazzling light and was extremely eye-catching. Then I'd like to see what kind of trash it is. Guoming sneered and looked up at the token. His eyes widened in disbelief. It's the token of a divine envoy. The high priest and steward Fu Anshan also widened their eyes in shock. It's a divine envoy token. Oh my god, are you dreaming? Look, there's a name on it. So it's Lord Lu Xingfeng. What's their relationship with Lord Lu Xingfeng? The crowd was also in disbelief. Qin Feiyang looked at everyone's expression and smiled to Mu Qing. I didn't expect your second grandpa's identity token to be so useful. He thought that Lu Xingfeng's identity token could only intimidate Guoming. After all, Guoming was a disciple of the Pill Pagoda. He didn't expect that even the high priest of the Sky Scorpion tribe and the high priest of the trading pavilion would be so afraid. Are you kidding? A divine envoy's position in the Pill Pagoda is second only to the chief pagoda lord. Furthermore, they have the power to decide the life and death of all tribes, including the 10 supreme tribes. To put it simply, a divine envoy is the same as the Great Qin Empire's law enforcement hall. Mu Qing said. That powerful? Qin Feiyang was surprised and joked, then why didn't you think of it before? Why didn't you ask your Mu family to come? This, I was a little muddle-headed and forgot about it. Chapter 857. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked at Guoming and said, if I didn't hear wrongly, you said that this oracle token is trash? Guoming stammered, his face full of panic. He never thought that these people were actually related to the oracle. Qin Feiyang laughed, do you need me to tell you what to do next? No need, no need. Guoming hurriedly waved his hand and bowed, I'm sorry, it was my fault just now, please forgive me. Is this your attitude of apologizing? There's no sincerity at all. Fatso said meaningfully. Guoming quivered and smiled flatteringly. What do you want? Just say it, as long as I have it, I'll give it to you. Fatso chuckled and said, you definitely have what I want, kneel down. What? Guoming looked at him in disbelief. Right. He was indeed afraid of the oracle token. But he was still the son of the leader of the Scorpion tribe, and he actually wanted him to kneel down in front of everyone? This was too much. You're not going to kneel? Then I'll have to tell Lord Lu Xingfeng the truth. You have to be clear, this oracle token is Lord Lu Xingfeng's identity token. You calling it trash is equivalent to scolding Lord Lu Xingfeng. What do you think will happen if Lord Lu Xingfeng finds out? Fatso said playfully. Guoming's body trembled, and hurriedly knelt on the ground, saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I apologize to you, that's more like it. Fatso smiled proudly and looked at the crowd around him. Plop. Anyone who met Fatso's gaze couldn't help but tremble and kneel down in unison. Finally. In the entire first floor of the trading pavilion, only the steward Fu Anshan and the high priest of the Scorpion tribe didn't kneel. At this moment, the place fell into a dead silence, and the atmosphere was particularly solemn. Fatso nodded in satisfaction. But suddenly, his gaze moved to the high priest and the steward. The high priest frowned. You still want us to kneel? You all have honorable statuses, and you are all warlord. How could we have the guts to do that? Fatso chuckled. The high priest and the steward looked at each other with a smile in their eyes. However, Fatso continued, but soon, you will personally come to us and kneel down. Especially you, the manager of the trading pavilion. Their gazes immediately turned gloomy. Let's go. Qin Feiyang glanced at the two of them. Without further ado, he put away the divine envoy token and left with Fatso and the others. Bastard. After the four of them left, Guoming suddenly stood up. The anger that was suppressed in his heart could not help but erupt. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Quickly return to the Pill Tower. I will secretly investigate the identities of these people. The high priest secretly transmitted his voice, and a cold light flashed in the depths of his old eyes. As soon as possible. When I go back, I'll tell my father that I must think of a way to kill them. Guoming thought, his words were filled with bone-piercing killing intent. With a gloomy face, he turned around and left in large strides. Brother Ming, wait for me. When the enchanting woman saw him, she hurriedly chased after him. Sorry to disturb you. After watching the two of them leave, the high priest also opened a teleportation gate. He cupped his hands and said something to Fu Anshan, then turned around and walked in without looking back. Sigh. I shouldn't have underestimated them. Silly. Fu Anshan sighed deeply, turned around and walked upstairs, his heart filled with regret. This time, the Scorpion tribe and the trading pavilion are in big trouble. It's not the trading pavilion that's in trouble, it's Fu Anshan. They can only blame themselves for being unlucky. Who would have thought that a few lowly commoners would actually have the divine envoy token? People discussed in low voices. And this matter was like a plague that quickly spread throughout the North City district. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang and the others became the subject of heated discussion again. Ha, this is great, this is great. Fu Anshan, this old bastard, has always been self-righteous and looked down on others. Now, he has finally suffered a great loss. East City, Trading Pavilion. In a resting room, a white-haired old man in white clothes was sitting beside a tea table, laughing in schadenfreude. And in front of the old man, a woman stood respectfully. This woman was tall and had a peerless appearance. Her skin was delicate, and she was about 25 or 26 years old. She wore a snow-white long dress, and her black and beautiful hair was like a waterfall. At this moment, there was also a faint smile on the woman's face. A moment later, The old man in white stopped laughing and looked at the woman. Yen, go and inquire about the background of those little fellows. The woman was slightly stunned, and smiled. It seems that grandfather is very interested in them. Of course. Regardless of their relationship with Lu Xingfeng, as long as they can make Fu Anshan suffer, they are worth making friends with. The old man in white chuckled. The woman looked at the old man helplessly and nodded. All right, I'll ask around. Dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. The old man in white sorted out his emotions, looked at the door, and said lightly, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and a black-clothed guard stood at the door. He bowed and said, "Steward, Miss Yen, there is a person called Lin Fan who wishes to see you." Lin Fan? The old man in white was stunned. The woman asked, "Did he say why he is looking for my grandfather?" "No. He only said that he wants to see the steward in person." The black-clothed guard shook his head. The old man in white smiled and said, "Then bring him in." "Okay." The black-clothed guard replied and turned around to leave. Lin Fan? The woman pondered for a moment and said suspiciously, "Why haven't I heard of this name? The Central Divine Kingdom is so big, it's normal that you haven't heard of it." The old man in white smiled and acted very indifferent. A moment later. Accompanied by a series of steady footsteps, the black-clothed guard brought a white-clothed youth to the door of the lounge. The white-clothed youth was about 1.75 meters tall, with a head of long black hair. His skin was slightly dark, and his appearance was ordinary. The aura he exuded was also quite ordinary. In short, he was a very ordinary person. If he was in a crowd, no one would take a second look at him. The black-clothed guard pointed at the white-clothed youth and said, "Sir, miss, it's him." The old man in white smiled and said, "Come in." The white-clothed youth walked into the lounge and cupped his hands. "Greetings, steward." Then, he glanced at the woman, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. The old man in white pointed to the chair opposite the tea table and said with a smile, "Please sit." "Thank you." The white-clothed youth cupped his hands and said. His eyes flashed as he strode to the tea table and sat opposite the old man in white. "You may leave." The old man in white then looked at the black-clothed guard at the door. "Yes." The guard bowed in response, closed the door, and strode away. Next. The old man in white looked at the woman and said, "Yen, prepare tea for this little brother." "Okay." The woman nodded, squatted on the ground, and began to clean the tea set in an orderly manner. Her movements were extremely elegant. Looking at all this, the white-clothed youth nodded without a trace, as if he was very satisfied with the hospitality here. The old man in white did not talk nonsense and asked directly, "May I know why little brother is looking for me?" The white-clothed youth said, "I want to buy a pill." "What pill?" The old man in white asked curiously. The white-clothed youth smiled and said, "Healing pill." The old man in white's face stiffened. At the same time, the woman who was making tea also paused her arms slightly and looked up at the white-clothed youth suspiciously. They originally thought that this person specially coming to find them was definitely to buy some precious medicinal pills. But they did not expect that it was just a healing pill. The grandfather and grandson looked at each other. The old man in white asked, "Little brother, are you sure it's just a healing pill?" "Yes." The white-clothed youth nodded. "Are you deliberately looking for trouble?" The woman immediately put down the teapot and looked at the white-clothed youth unkindly. "Looking for trouble?" The white-clothed youth was stunned and said in confusion, "Miss, I'm really here to buy a healing pill. How can you say that I'm looking for trouble? It's just a healing pill. Can't you just go to the staff directly? You even came to look for my grandfather. Do you think my grandfather has nothing better to do?" The woman said angrily. "Yen, don't be rude." The old man in white reprimanded with a straight face. The woman said, "Grandfather, he's doing it on purpose, understand? All right. Since our transaction pavilion is open for business, no matter how much you buy, you're a customer. Quickly, go and get this little brother a healing pill. The old man in white smiled and comforted the woman before instructing. All right. The woman glared at the white-clothed youth fiercely and walked towards the door reluctantly. At this moment, the white-clothed youth smiled and reached out his hand. Miss, there's no need. The woman raised her eyebrows and turned to glare at the white-clothed youth. Are you playing with us? The old man in white also looked at the white-clothed youth suspiciously, but he was not angry and was as easygoing as usual. The white-clothed youth smiled faintly and stood up to look at the old man in white. He cupped his fists and said, Senior, please forgive me for offending you earlier. The old man in white was even more confused. To tell you the truth, I did that on purpose to test your character, Senior. The white-clothed youth smiled. Test me? The old man in white was stunned. Then, his face twitched and he asked, Why? Because a friend told me that you're more easygoing and reasonable than Fu Anshan. You're not as arrogant as Fu Anshan and look down on others. But I didn't believe it, so I wanted to test you. I didn't expect the result to be as what my friend said. The white-clothed youth smiled. I see. The old man in white came to a realization. Then, he looked at the white-clothed youth from head to toe and suddenly laughed. The woman was stunned and asked in confusion, Grandfather, what are you laughing at? We're guests. Hurry and fill this little brother's cup of tea. The old man in white laughed. No. The woman turned her head away. She was a little arrogant and unhappy. The old man in white was a little embarrassed. He looked at the young man and said apologetically, Little brother, I've spoiled my granddaughter. Please don't mind her. The white-clothed youth smiled helplessly and said, It's my fault. You can't blame her. Little brother, you're really magnanimous. In that case, please reveal your true colors. Chapter 858. Lu Shan's True Face. When the woman heard this, she couldn't help but look at the young man in white in surprise. The young man in white smiled, took out a pill with lightning speed, and stuffed it into his mouth. But it wasn't the facial restoration pill, it was the illusionary form pill. Soon, a blue-haired youth appeared in front of the grandfather and grandson. It's you. The woman was surprised. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyang. After leaving the North City Trading Pavilion, Mu Qing opened the teleportation gate and brought him to the East City. In order to prove Mu Qing's words, he deliberately changed his appearance and entered the trading pavilion. Moreover, he also thought of a very direct way to test the waters. By healing pills. And only by one. If it was Fu Anshan who encountered such a thing, he would definitely be angry on the spot and ask someone to kick him out. But the old man in front of him not only did not do so, he was even polite to him. It was enough to see that this person's character were indeed not bad. Qin Feiyang looked at the woman and cupped his hands. Miss, I have no choice but to do so, please forgive me. Humph. My grandfather's temper is famous in the divine city. You actually have such a way to test him, this is too much. The woman snorted coldly, not buying it at all. Her face was filled with anger. This little brother has just arrived in the divine city after all, so it's understandable for him to do this. If you continue to be like this, Grandpa will be angry. The white-haired old man said with a straight face. Grandfather, the woman wanted to say something, but the old man in white waved his hand and said, All right, don't say anything, quickly pour the tea. The woman stomped her feet angrily, picked up the teapot, grabbed a teacup, filled it to the brim, and placed it in front of Qin Feiyang with a bang. She stared at Qin Feiyang and gritted her teeth. Drink it to death. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. This woman was really barbaric. Whoever married her would definitely be unlucky for the rest of their lives. The white-haired old man also rubbed his head helplessly and laughed. Little brother, don't mind it. It's fine. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, picked up the teacup, and was about to drink it, but when he saw the woman's fierce expression, he instantly lost his appetite. Cough cough. He coughed dryly and put down the teacup. He looked at the white-haired old man and asked, Senior, how should I address you? Li He, just call me Old Li. This is my granddaughter, Li Yan. Little brother, what's your name? Li He asked after introducing Zhang Xian. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. My name is somewhat offensive. It's better not to say it. Offend someone? Li He's interest was immediately piqued. He smiled and said, It's fine. Just tell me. Cough cough. My name is Ancestor Mu. Qin Feiyang said. Ugh. The grandfather and grandson were stunned on the spot. Huh, what were your parents thinking? They actually gave you such a name. Isn't it funny? The next moment, Li Yan laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth. Qin Feiyang's face suddenly turned ugly. It was not because of Li Yan's teasing, but because Li Yan had mentioned his parents. Seeing this, Li He frowned. Yan, are you getting more and more impolite? The woman nodded resentfully, but she kept looking at Qin Feiyang, the teasing look in her eyes. Behave yourself. Li He glared at her, then looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Then why did little brother come to find this old man this time? Qin Feiyang restrained himself and said, I'll give you a good fortune. Give me a good fortune? Li He was completely stunned. One had to know that he was the manager of the Eastern City Trading Pavilion and controlled countless resources. Furthermore, he was a great emperor who was respected by the world. And this brat in front of him, looking at his cultivation, was an 8-star war master. Looking at his family background, although it was related to Lu Xingfeng, it didn't mean anything. However, at this moment, he actually said that he wanted to give him a good fortune. Wasn't this a joke? I'm not joking. I heard that your vice pavilion master is about to die and is about to abdicate. And you 4 stewards will be the main candidates. Qin Feiyang said. Li He said in surprise, You've just arrived in the divine city, and you actually know so much. Not simple. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, Then may I ask, Senior, what is your chance? Chance? Li He pondered for a moment and said, 1/10. So low? Qin Feiyang frowned. Not to mention Li He's ability, just based on his character, his chance should be the highest. Sigh. My grandfather is different from them. Although my grandfather is conscientious and works for the trading pavilion, he doesn't like to curry favor. And the 3 stewards of the West City, North City, and South City are in front of the chief pavilion master all day long, fawning over him like grandchildren. Li Yan sighed, her eyes full of disdain. Li He frowned and shouted, Yan, don't talk nonsense. Li Yan snorted, How am I talking nonsense? It's always been like this. Enough. Everyone has their own fate. Actually, my grandfather doesn't really care whether he can become the deputy pavilion master or not. Li He said. Li Yan said, If he doesn't care, why do you keep talking about it all day? The veins on Li He's forehead popped as he said angrily, I say, little girl, can you not undermine your grandfather in front of outsiders? Li Yan turned her head and said arrogantly, I'm just telling the truth. If you don't like it, don't listen. Oh my God, how did I raise a white-eyed wolf like you? Li He cried out in sorrow and helplessness. Looking at the grandfather and granddaughter bickering, Qin Feiyang could not help but smile faintly. What are you laughing at? Li Yan said unhappily. Qin Feiyang said, I envy you for having such a good grandfather. Don't you have a grandfather? Li Yan was stunned and asked. My grandfather. Qin Feiyang was silent for a while, then shook his head and said, Let's not talk about it. Let's get to the point. He looked at Li He and said, If you are willing to cooperate with me, I can help you increase the chances to 100%. What? 100%. Li He suddenly stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Li Yan's almond-shaped eyes also widened. I'm not kidding. Qin Feiyang took out a yellow pill and placed it on the tea table. The grandfather and granddaughter looked down at the pill. A moment later, Li Yan looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, "What kind of pill is this? Why have I never seen it before?" Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. It can make the Battle King and Battle Emperor break through a small realm in an instant. Qin Feiyang said. The grandfather and granddaughter looked at each other. Wasn't this the same as the red fire glass pill? But why didn't they remember that there was such a pill in the world? Moreover, the effect of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill is determined by the patterns. The more patterns there are, the more realms you can break through. For example, this Juku Yellow Dragon Pill with 5 patterns can make the Battle King and Battle Emperor break through 5 small realms in a row. Qin Feiyang said again. Hearing this, Li He grabbed the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill and looked at it over and over again. As far as he knew, only martial artists, martial masters, and martial grandmasters could use pills to improve their cultivation. As for those above the War King level, they had to cultivate step by step, and there were no shortcuts. Thus, he felt that what Qin Feiyang said was too excessive, too illusory, and simply impossible to believe. Senior, if you don't believe me, you can find someone to test it. But the test subject must be a tight-lipped person. I don't want this pill to be exposed yet. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. I have to try. Li He turned around and handed the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill to Li Yan, saying, "Go home immediately and let Haolong take it." Li Yan grabbed the pill and hesitated. Don't worry, if little brother wanted to harm us, he wouldn't use such a clumsy method. Li He patted her shoulder and laughed. Li Yan glanced at Qin Feiyang and did not say anything else. She opened a teleportation gate and quickly left. After Li Yan left, Li He returned to his seat and smiled at Qin Feiyang. Little brother, don't worry, Haolong is my grandson and Yan Er's younger brother. He is absolutely reliable. Qin Feiyang nodded. Next, the two of them chatted while drinking tea, waiting for Li Yan to return. Qin Feiyang was very calm. But Li He was obviously a little absent-minded. He was very eager to know the result. Because, if this Juku Yellow Dragon Pill could really raise the cultivation of the Battle King and the War Emperor, then it would definitely cause a huge sensation in the Divine City. At that time, he, the person who cooperated with Qin Feiyang, would undoubtedly be the biggest beneficiary. Suddenly, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Little brother, if we cooperate, I hope that I am your only partner." Of course. Qin Feiyang laughed. Of course, he knew what Li He was thinking. Once the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill appeared, it would definitely bring endless wealth to the trading pavilion. And as his only partner, Li He would naturally be especially valued by the chief pavilion master. Even as long as Li He could grasp this opportunity well, the position of vice pavilion master of the trading pavilion would be his. Schwa. A moment passed. Li Yan finally returned. She looked very excited, her jade-like hands were tightly clenched together, and her beautiful face was flushed red. How is it? Li He asked. Sure. Li Yan nodded and said, after little brother consumed the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, his cultivation soared straight to the 9-star War Emperor. Li He was stunned for a moment, then raised his head and laughed heartily. Li Yan looked at her grandfather who was laughing and was overjoyed. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and asked Qin Feiyang, "Where did you find this Juku Yellow Dragon Pill's pill formula?" Qin Feiyang smiled but did not say anything. Li He stopped laughing and looked at Qin Feiyang's expression. He smiled faintly and said, "Yan, this is you who is not sensible. How can you ask about this kind of private matter?" Li Yan pursed her lips, but in her big black eyes, there were wisps of strange light flashing. Li He shook his head and laughed. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang, his old eyes shining, and said, "Little brother, how many Juku yellow dragon pills can you give me? We'll talk about this later. Since we are cooperating, we naturally have to benefit from each other." Qin Feiyang laughed. Li He was stunned and quickly nodded. Yes, 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 look at my head, I'm a little too excited. Tell me, what are your conditions? I have 3 conditions. First, I need a large amount of 10,000-year-old medicinal herbs. I will give you the list later. Second, before I agree, you can't tell anyone about the source of the Juku yellow dragon pill, including your chief pavilion master. Third, no matter what happens in the future, you have to promise me one thing unconditionally. As for what it is, I will tell you when the time is right. Qin Feiyang said. His main purpose of coming to the trading pavilion was actually to get the 10,000-year-old medicinal herbs. The third condition was also just in case. After all, the Central Divine Kingdom was full of experts, and his goal this time was the 5-colored crystal on the chief pavilion master, so he had to think of a way out. In case something unexpected happened, he could also find someone to help him. As for the Mu family, although they were cooperating now, as soon as he got the heavenly flames, they might immediately turn hostile. Chapter 859. He had heard of it. Li He frowned slightly and said hesitantly, I can agree to the first 2 conditions, but the third one. Qin Feiyang obviously knew Li He's concerns and said with a smile, Don't worry, I definitely won't let you hurt yourself or your family. That's good. Li He nodded and said with a smile, Actually, I originally thought that you would let me deal with Fu Anshan. Him? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, He's just a clown. He's not worth me dealing with. Ah. The grandfather and grandson looked at each other. The manager of the North City district was just a clown in the eyes of this person? Li He asked with a smile, Little brother, your identity shouldn't be simple, right? If Qin Feiyang was really just someone from the 9 districts, he definitely wouldn't say such words. Because there were 2 things that people who dared to say such words must have. First, they must have seen the world. Second, they must have confidence. And as a young man who wasn't very strong, his confidence undoubtedly came from his family background. Therefore, Li He concluded that Qin Feiyang must have a huge force behind him. However, Qin Feiyang only smiled and didn't answer. Li He didn't ask any more and said with a smile, Since the conditions have been agreed, how about the Juku yellow dragon pill? There was a trace of excitement and nervousness in his tone. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, took out a Juku yellow dragon pill and handed it to Li He. Li He quickly grabbed it and looked at it as if he had found a treasure. He asked, Do you have more? Old senior, don't be greedy. Of course, I definitely have more than 1 or 2 on me, but there's a saying that the rarer something is, the more valuable it is. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Yes, yes, yes. Li He nodded repeatedly. I plan to only auction 1 pill a month. As for the commission, you can do it according to the rules. If we have a good cooperation, I promise you that I'll give you a big surprise later. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Whether it was the treasure pavilion of the Great Qin Empire or the trading pavilion here, there would be a commission for helping people auction things. Big surprise. Li He's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but look forward to it. Suddenly, Li Yan asked suspiciously, Don't you have a few companions? Where are they? They are waiting for me at the restaurant next to your trading pavilion. Oh right, there's one more thing I have to say. You can't mention our cooperation to Qin Day. Qin Feiyang said seriously. Li He asked, Who is Qin Day? Qin Feiyang waved his hand as his battle chi surged and rapidly condensed into Mu Qing's current look. This, the grandfather and grandson looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. Weren't these 2 companions? Why did he have to hide it from her? Some things are not as simple as what you see. Anyway, I'm not the only one who needs to be on guard against this person. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. He had entered the trading pavilion alone to look for Li He. In fact, he had purposely sent Mu Qing away. Yes. Li He nodded and asked, what about the other two? The people he was referring to were Fatso and Yen Wei. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, they have nothing to do with me. They are all my trusted aides. If I have anything to do in the future, I will let them do it. Okay. Li He nodded again. Qin Feiyang seemed to have thought of something and said, by the way, please prepare 5 image crystals for me. I want them now. No problem. Li He looked at Li Yan and said with a smile, Yen, go and prepare them for little brother immediately. Okay. Li Yan glanced at Qin Feiyang, then turned and walked out quickly. Little brother, please sit down. Li He then asked Qin Feiyang to sit down and personally poured tea for Qin Feiyang. May I ask, little brother, where are you going next? If you have nowhere to go, you can stay in my trading pavilion. I believe that with little brother's talent, you will definitely be able to show off your skills in my trading pavilion. Li He asked with a smile as he filled the tea. Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head with a smile. Thank you for your kindness, senior, but I have to go to the Pill Pagoda. Go to the Pill Pagoda? Li He was slightly stunned. He put down the teapot and said, did little brother refine the 9 Chu yellow dragon elixir personally? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. 5 elixir patterns. Little brother's alchemy talent is extraordinary. But I don't understand. With little brother's ability, it seems that you can't learn anything in the Pill Pagoda. Is it for the elixir recipe? If it is really for the elixir recipe, my trading pavilion can also provide it. And it will be provided free of charge. Li He said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This condition was extremely tempting. Because elixir recipes were very important to alchemists. There were even some people who risked their lives for a single pill formula, not hesitating to give up their lives. So, if it were other alchemists, they would definitely be tempted by Li He's condition. But for Qin Feiyang, it was of no value. Because he didn't need all the elixir recipes recorded in the alchemy scripture. Of course. He couldn't directly say that he didn't like their elixir recipes. He tactfully refused, I'm really sorry. Senior, I can only accept your kindness. You little brat. Li He shook his head and smiled helplessly. Well, to each his own. I won't force you. Creak. At this time, the door opened. Li Yan grabbed a Qinkuan bag and walked in quickly. It's all inside. After closing the door, Li Yan threw the Qinkuan bag to Qin Feiyang. She didn't look good from beginning to end. This woman is really narrow-minded. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly. Without checking the Qinkuan bag, he got up and looked at Li He. He cupped his hands and said, it's getting late. I'll take my leave first. You're leaving now? Li He was stunned and hurriedly said, I still want to have a few drinks with little brother. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, there will be plenty of time in the future. There will be opportunities in the future. Well, then I won't see you off. Li He nodded and smiled, but his smile was a little bitter. Although he wasn't a big shot in the Central Divine Kingdom, with his identity as the manager of the trading pavilion, there were definitely many people who wanted to invite him to dinner and drink. There was even a long line. However, he didn't expect that he would be rejected when he took the initiative to invite him. This little guy really couldn't be treated with ordinary eyes. After Qin Feiyang left, Li He let out a long breath, looked at Li Yan, and asked with a smile, Yan, what do you think of this person? He's very mysterious, very rude, and very cunning. Li Yan snorted coldly. Grandpa doesn't know what to say about you. Grandpa admits that at first he was indeed very rude, but later you saw that he was very polite. But there's one thing you're right about. He is indeed a cunning little fox. There are many geniuses in the Divine City, but this man is the only one I can't see through. I can even predict that in the near future, his reputation and prestige will directly affect the situation of the Central Divine Kingdom. Li Yi's eyes flashed. Affect the situation of the Central Divine Kingdom? Grandpa, are you exaggerating? Just by him? Li Yan said disdainfully. Yes, just by him. Li Yi nodded. Li Yan's eyes were full of surprise. This was the first time she saw her grandpa praise someone so much. She asked, then where is he going now? The Pill Pagoda. Li Yi said. The Pill Pagoda. Li Yan didn't say anything, and her eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Back to Qin Feiyang. After leaving the trading pavilion, he went directly to the restaurant next door to meet up with Fatso and the other two. After meeting up, Qin Feiyang briefly explained and then set off for the Pill Pagoda with Mu Qing. Chapter 860. The Central Area. Pill Pagoda Square. This Pill Pagoda Square was the place where Qin Feiyang and the other three first appeared. At this moment, it was afternoon. There were more young people dating in the square. And as soon as Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing entered the square, these young people all looked at them. Guoming's matter had already spread to the Pill Pagoda. So, now, all the disciples in the Pill Pagoda basically knew that Qin Feiyang had Lu Xingfeng's oracle token. Everyone was very curious. What was the relationship between Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingfeng? And next to the teleportation altar, the old man in black was still sitting there like a stone statue, without any aura. Senior, we are here to report. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing stood in front of the old man in black and bowed. As for the surrounding gazes, the two directly ignored them. Go to the examination hall above. The old man in black opened his eyes, looked at the two, pointed behind him and closed his eyes again. Qin Feiyang looked up. At the end of the square, there was a wide stone staircase. The stone staircase was very old, with obvious traces of weathering, and slanted upwards. And at the top, there was a dark hall, dozens of feet tall, exuding a majestic aura. The two looked at each other, walked around the old man in black, and walked towards the stone staircase. Qin Feiyang glanced at the old man in black and secretly asked, "Who is he? He seems to be very strong." "Nonsense. He is the law-enforcing elder of the main pagoda. Do you think he is strong?" Mu Qing rolled her eyes at him. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. With the oracle, why do we still need the law-enforcing elder? This is different in nature. The oracle is a sharp blade of the main pagoda, and will only appear under special circumstances. The law-enforcing elder is responsible for managing the disciples and maintaining the order of the Pill Pagoda. Although these law-enforcing elders are not as strong as the oracle, you must not underestimate them, because the weakest of them is a 9-star battle saint. Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Next. Mu Qing pointed at the 10 towering ancient pagodas and said, "Do you see those 10 stone pagodas?" Qin Feiyang looked over. When he had just arrived at the Central Divine Kingdom, he had already noticed the 10 ancient pagodas. It was because there was no way they wouldn't notice it. The 10 ancient pagodas were too obvious, reaching into the clouds. As long as one was in a divine city, no matter where they were, they would be able to see them. The main tower is different from the 9 great regions. There are no restrictions here. You can take the test at any time. Furthermore, the main tower will not only nurture alchemists, but also accept pure martial artists. That's why there are so many disciples here. As for those 10 stone towers, they were specially prepared for alchemists. They are the first pagoda, second pagoda, third pagoda, and even the 10th pagoda. Mu Qing explained secretly. 10 ancient pagodas. How many disciples are there? Qin Feiyang was shocked. With the 10 ancient pagodas added together, a conservative estimate would be at least 500,000 to 600,000. And these 10 pagodas are each managed by a pagoda master. These pagoda masters are called the first pagoda master and second pagoda master. However, the person in charge is usually the law-enforcing elder. Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, "Then where do the pure martial artists cultivate?" They are a little further inside. And the place where they cultivate is not a stone pagoda, but a mountain range called the Martial Artist Mountain Range. The Martial Artist Mountain Range covers an area larger than these 10 stone pagodas. There are a total of 10 giant peaks, and they are managed by the 10 peak masters. After passing the test, we can go and take a look. Because I have never been there before. I only heard about it from second grandpa. Mu Qing said with a smile. Qin Feiyang said, in other words, the main tower is composed of the Pill Pagoda Square, the 10 ancient pagodas, and the Martial Artist Mountain Range? If you really think so, then you are too naive. The main tower also has a holy land. This place is located in the center of the main tower, and the divine envoys of the main tower live there. Moreover, any disciple who suddenly becomes a battle saint will also enter the Holy Land and be taught by the divine envoys. There is even a chance to receive personal guidance from the main pagoda master. Mu Qing said. After Qin Feiyang heard this, his eyes lit up. Mu Qing laughed secretly. If you don't want to please young Master Hao, then entering the Holy Land is also a good choice. Qin Feiyang glanced at him indifferently and asked, where is the heavenly dipper flame? Mu Qing said, it is also in the Holy Land. Qin Feiyang frowned and looked at Mu Qing suspiciously. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. I understand. Immediately after, the corner of his mouth pursed into a sneer. Mu Qing's pupils shrank slightly, and he asked with a smile, understand what? The Holy Land requires disciples who have suddenly reached the Battle Saint realm to enter. As for you, you are only a 5-star war master. In a short period of time, you will not be able to step into the Battle Saint realm. As for your second grandfather, although he is in the Holy Land, because he doesn't want his identity to be exposed, he doesn't dare to make a move on the heavenly dipper flame. So, you found me. Because, right now, I am already an 8-star war master. It won't be long before I can break through the Battle Saint realm and enter the Holy Land. Qin Feiyang said. You are indeed extremely smart. But don't think that you can threaten me just like that, because my second grandfather is not the only one in the main tower. Mu Qing said. You've planted someone else in here? Qin Feiyang frowned. You must know that my Mu family has never done anything that we are not confident in, and you are only one of them. Of course, our greatest hope is still on you. How is it? Are you touched that we trust you so much and look forward to it? Mu Qing laughed secretly. Yeah, I'm so moved that I'm about to cry. Qin Feiyang laughed coldly. But suddenly, he turned his head to size up Mu Qing, a hint of bewilderment in his eyes. What are you doing? I'm warning you, I'm very normal in that aspect. Don't be greedy for my beauty. Mu Qing stared at him warily, as if a little girl had met a pervert. Scram! Qin Feiyang's face darkened. What kind of person did he think he was? Mu Qing laughed embarrassedly, and said, then why are you looking at me? I was just wondering, why did your cultivation progress so quickly? I remember the first time we met in Heaven Thunder City, our cultivations were about the same. After all these years, although I have broken through to 8-star war master, I have opened the door to potential. And you, without opening the door to potential, were able to cultivate to 5-star war master. Isn't that strange? Qin Feiyang said. What's so strange about that? My Mu family is very powerful. Isn't it easy to nurture a war master in a short period of time? Mu Qing laughed disdainfully. Is that so? Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed slightly, his gaze somewhat aggressive. Without opening the door to potential, no matter how many resources he had, it was impossible for him to be so fast. Unless, this Mu Qing was the reincarnation of a god. But was that possible? Therefore, there must be some unknown secret hidden within. Looking at Qin Feiyang's threatening gaze, Mu Qing seemed to feel a little guilty. He quickly turned his head and looked towards the examination hall, saying, we're here. There really is a problem. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, he saw Mu Qing's guilty conscience. He temporarily suppressed this doubt and raised his head to look ahead. In front of him was a small plaza. The examination hall was located in the center of the plaza. There weren't many people in the plaza, and it seemed a little deserted. The few people who were there also stopped in their tracks and curiously sized up the two of them. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing ignored them and directly walked towards the examination hall. They really want to participate in the examination? Let's wait and see. As long as they enter the pill tower, Guoming will definitely not let them off. That's right. Although they are related to the divine envoy, there is a saying that it is easy to dodge an open spear but hard to defend against a hidden arrow. Why don't we go tell Guoming now and let him take a look? That's fine. Chapter 861. At the same time. In the main hall. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing stood in front of an old man. The old man was stooped and had white hair. He was half lying on a wooden armchair, squinting his turbid eyes as he sized up Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. A moment later. The old man said, "I'm the deacon here. I heard that you have Divine Envoy Lu's Divine Envoy token." Qin Feiyang nodded, took out the Divine Envoy token, and handed it to the old man. But the old man only glanced at the token before looking at the two again. "Although you have the Divine Envoy token, I can't bend the law. If you want to enter the Pill Pagoda, you have to pass the test." Qin Feiyang put away the Divine Envoy token and smiled. "That's what I should do. Let's test your mind power first. The Pill Pagoda requires people with level 5 mind power and above to enter." As the old man spoke, he took out a mind stone. Qin Feiyang stepped forward and took the mind stone. Then, he returned to his original position and closed his eyes to meditate. Buzz! Soon, the mind stone trembled for the first time and emitted a faint glow. Mu Qing's eyes flashed. "Brother Qin, don't expose your true mind power." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Mu Qing said, "We can't be too ostentatious." Once Qin Feiyang's level 20 mind power was exposed, it would definitely set off a huge storm. Because of Guoming's incident, the entire Divine City probably knows about us now. "Is there a need to do this?" Qin Feiyang said. "Of course there is a need. As long as we hide the grade of our mind power now and keep a low profile in the future, we will naturally fade out of their sight." Mu Qing said secretly. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded subtly. Mu Qing's words made sense. They had just entered the Central Divine Kingdom. If they were too ostentatious, not only would it not help them, but it would also be counterproductive. Buzz! The spirit stone continued to vibrate. On the 10th vibration, Qin Feiyang's body shook and he opened his eyes. Level 10 spiritual power, so. The old man said lightly and looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing took the spirit stone from Qin Feiyang and tested it. She also had level 10 spiritual power. Obviously, he was hiding something. Then, Mu Qing returned the spirit stone to the old man. The old man put away the spirit stone and nodded. "Your spiritual powers are all qualified." After saying that, the old man then pointed to the two stone doors behind him and said, "Those are 2 alchemy rooms with 3rd-grade alchemy fires. As long as you can fuse the alchemy fires within half an hour, you will pass the second test." "This is too simple." Mu Qing snickered. Qin Feiyang also had a smile in his eyes. If it was in the past, it would indeed be difficult for him to fuse with a 3rd-grade alchemy fire within an hour. But for the current him, it was no challenge at all. The two of them walked to a stone door and pushed it open. Suddenly, Mu Qing seemed to think of something and said secretly, "By the way, let me remind you to find a chance to put all the important things into the castle." After saying that, Mu Qing entered the cultivation room without looking back. Important things? Qin Feiyang was stunned and followed into the alchemy room with a trace of suspicion. The layout inside was quite simple, with only an alchemy table and an alchemy furnace. Not long after the two of them entered the alchemy room, a young man swaggered into the main hall. It was Guoming. The old man frowned and said, "What are you doing here?" The stone door was not closed. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing also noticed Guoming. "I got to know them after a fight. They came to participate in the assessment. Of course, I have to cheer for them. Elder Wu, will I disturb you?" Guoming smiled. "As long as you don't mess around, whatever," Elder Wu said indifferently. Then, he moved his armchair and turned around to keep an eye on Qin Feiyang and Elder Wu. "Cheer for them?" Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing both pursed their lips into a sneer, but ignored Guoming. A wisp of mental force emerged and pounced on the alchemy fire. But when fusing, they deliberately slowed down. Guoming did not say anything and quietly looked at the two of them. As time passed, suddenly, Guoming's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he sent a sound transmission. "Elder Wu, I have something to discuss with you." Elder Wu raised his eyebrows and asked secretly, "What is it?" Guoming said a few words in secret. After Elder Wu heard this, he secretly said, "This is not appropriate, right? If this matter is exposed and the higher-ups investigate, it will be difficult for me to shirk the responsibility. Don't worry about that. As long as you can trick them, I guarantee that they will never return. And as long as there is no evidence, even if Lu Xingfen comes in person, he won't dare to do anything to you." Guoming sent a sound transmission, full of confidence. This, Elder Wu hesitated for a moment, and finally said, "All right, take it as repaying the favor of your Scorpion tribe." "Thank you, Elder Wu." Guoming secretly thanked him, then looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing, and said with a smile, "I'll go prepare a celebratory banquet for the two of you. The two of you have to work hard, don't let me prepare for nothing." With that, Guoming turned around and left. Sigh. Favors are all debts. After Guoming left, Elder Wu secretly let out a long sigh, filled with helplessness. After observing Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing for a moment, he simply closed his eyes, looking slightly haggard. Time flew by. Half an hour passed by quickly. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing walked out of the alchemy room at almost the same time. Exactly an hour. Congratulations on passing the second round of the examination. Next is the third round. Elder Wu also opened his eyes. This third round is a bit dangerous, you have to be careful. You need to go to the mountains outside the city within 3 days and find 100 types of precious medicinal herbs. The total value of these medicinal herbs must exceed 10 million gold coins. Elder Wu said. 10 million gold coins for 100 herbs is not difficult. Qin Feiyang muttered. But before you leave, you have to give me your Qingkuan bag and image crystal. After all, young people nowadays like to play tricks. Elder Wu laughed. This, Qin Feiyang hesitated and secretly asked Mu Qing, "Is there such a rule in the main tower examination?" Yes. Taking away the Qingkuan bag is to prevent the examinees from using the medicinal herbs in their Qingkuan bag to make up the numbers. And taking away the image crystal is also to prevent the examinees from asking for help from their relatives and friends. This is the reason why I asked you to put the important things in the castle just now. Of course, the Pill Pagoda also has a written rule that the managing elders are not allowed to privately check anyone's Qingkuan bag, let alone take a single cent. Mu Qing transmitted her voice. Qin Feiyang said, "What if we encounter danger? I heard from my second grandpa that the elder in charge of the examination will give us a jade slip. If we really encounter a life and death crisis, we can crush the jade slip. At that time, the managing elder will personally come to rescue us. But crushing the jade slip means that we have failed the examination." Mu Qing secretly explained. "I see." Qin Feiyang muttered. Mu Qing secretly said, "Did you put those important things in the castle?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang said. Previously, when Elder Wu had closed his eyes to recuperate, he had found an opportunity to send Sang Shui, the ribs, the elixirs, and anything else that he felt was valuable to the ancient castle. Now, there were only some ordinary medicinal herbs, gold coins, and some daily necessities left in the Qingquan bag. That's good, Mu Qing secretly said. The two of them handed over their Qingquan bag and image crystal one after another. After keeping their Qingquan bag and image crystal, Elder Wu took out an empty Qingquan bag and handed it to the two of them. There is a teleportation gate in this Qingquan bag. Once you find enough medicinal herbs, use this gate to teleport back. Also, on account of Divine Envoy Lu Xingfeng, I'll point you in the right direction. Go to Tornado Cloud Mountain Range. There are medicinal herbs everywhere. I estimate that you'll be able to complete the mission in less than half a day. However, there are many saint beasts in Tornado Cloud Mountain Range. You have to be careful. Elder Wu reminded and handed a jade slip to the two of them. The jade slip was the size of a baby's palm. It was pure white and there was a flame symbol on it. Thank you, Elder. The two of them received the jade slip and cupped their fists to express their gratitude. Good luck. Elder Wu smiled and opened a teleportation gate with a wave of his hand. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing took a deep breath and strode in. Don't blame me. I didn't want this to happen either. Looking at the teleportation gate that disappeared, Elder Wu muttered to himself. Although he felt guilty, there was a hint of relief in his eyes. He had finally repaid this debt of gratitude. In the sky above a mountain range, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing appeared out of thin air. The moment they appeared, the two of them stood back to back and scanned the area below with vigilance. The mountain range was vast and boundless. Strange peaks and lofty ridges stood tall and majestic. A torrential river was like a horned dragon, winding and twisting as it extended to the end of the world. And in the mountain stream, ancient trees towered into the sky. Terrifying beasts' auras enveloped the entire area. Two of the ferocious auras had reached the level of saint beasts. However, these two saint beasts' auras were still a little far from their current location, so they could not consider them for the time being. As for the nearby beasts, they were basically only at the War Master level. Some of them were even at the War Emperor level. Seeing the situation clearly, the two of them heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang put the white jade slip into his bosom and said, "Let's split up and look for it. If anything happens, just shout. Don't. I'm only a 5-star War Master. It's too risky to split up. Let's go together." Mu Qing hurriedly said. Not interested. Qin Feiyang replied expressionlessly, then rushed towards the mountain stream below. I don't care. I'm going to follow you anyway, Mu Qing said, and chased after Qin Feiyang. Yan Wei was currently in Qin Feiyang's ancient castle, so following Qin Feiyang was the best choice. Shwa. The two of them landed on top of a valley one after another. Qin Feiyang scanned the valley, and his brows gradually furrowed. What's going on? Didn't Elder Wu say that this place is filled with medicinal herbs? But why can't I see a single one? Mu Qing also frowned. Of course you can't see it, because there are no medicinal herbs here. But before he finished speaking, a cold and stern voice sounded. Following closely. A terrifying pressure rushed out from the valley like a volcanic eruption, instantly imprisoning Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Who is it? The two of them shouted coldly. Whiz. Accompanied by two piercing sounds, an old man and a young man flew out from the valley and stood in the air opposite the two of them. It's you. Seeing the two of them, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing's faces immediately darkened. Chapter 862. Qin Feiyang asked in a deep voice, "Why are you guys here?" Guess. Guoming laughed in ridicule. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, then said in shock and anger, "It's Elder Wu." Ha! Guoming laughed out loud, and said, "That's right, it was Elder Wu who deliberately tricked you guys here." That's impossible. Elder Wu is the deacon elder of the Pill Pagoda, He would never collude with you guys. Mu Qing shook his head. Yes. According to his original intention, it's impossible for him to help us. But there's no other way. He owes my scorpion tribe a favor. Guoming said. The high priest said, Ming, don't talk nonsense with them, quickly kill them. There's no rush. I have to make them pay for the humiliation they gave me in the divine city. You have to restrain them well. Don't let them escape. Guoming laughed sinisterly, his eyes shining with a cold light. You can rest assured about that. This old man is a war king after all. It's simply a dream for them to break free from my restraints. The high priest chuckled. You guys didn't expect that you would fall into my hands so easily. How do you want to die? Tell me, and I'll definitely fulfill your wish. Guoming laughed, and walked towards Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing, but his eyes were filled with hatred. Mu Qing looked at Guoming gloomily, and cursed in his heart, this damned elder Wu, I thought he was a good person, but I didn't expect him to harm us. Qin Feiyang sighed, this is what it means to know what's in a person's heart. At this moment, Guoming landed in front of the two of them and grinned, without the image crystal, you can't ask for help. Are you in despair? Mu Qing said in a deep voice, you're playing with fire. Playing with fire? Guoming laughed, but his gaze turned cold as he slapped Mu Qing's face. A crisp sound of a slap rang out. A striking palm print also appeared on Mu Qing's face, and half of his face was even swollen. He was mad with hatred. The dignified young lord of the Mu Jia was slapped in public? What a great humiliation. I'm telling you, you better release me immediately and kneel down to apologize. Otherwise, your Scorpio tribe will soon meet its end. Mu Qing enunciated each word clearly, her eyes flashing with killing intent. Apocalypse? Guoming seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He couldn't help but raise his head and laugh wildly. The high priest's face was also filled with mockery. Mu Qing gritted her teeth and said, don't regret it. I'm fine. Even if we regret it, we will make you suffer a fate worse than death before we regret it. Guoming waved his hand, took out a dagger, and directly stabbed Mu Qing's lower abdomen. Ah! Mu Qing immediately let out a blood-curdling scream as her face contorted. Isn't it great? The fun part is yet to come. Guoming smiled sinisterly and stabbed Qin Feiyang's lower abdomen again. Blood splattered everywhere. But Qin Feiyang didn't even frown. He just looked at Guoming silently. Look at you guys. How dare you go against me? Do you think you're so great because you have the oracle token? Let me tell you, brains are the only weapon to win these days. Idiots like you, I have 10,000 ways to torture you to death. After Guoming finished speaking, he stabbed their lower abdomens again. Blood gushed out. You've really pissed me off. I swear, everyone in your Scorpio tribe will die miserably because of your stupid behavior. Mu Qing's face twisted. Except for Zhuge Mingyang, he had never wanted to kill anyone like this. No. He wanted to slaughter an entire tribe. And Zhuge Mingyang was also on his must-kill list. Because his sister Mu Shui had died miserably in the hands of Zhuge Mingyang. You still dare to be arrogant? Guoming was stunned. Cold light flashed in his eyes. He grabbed the dagger and stabbed Mu Qing in the chest. Ah, the shattering of her heart caused Mu Qing to howl in agony. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Try again. Guoming laughed. Some blood splashed on his face, making him look particularly ferocious. Mu Qing shouted secretly, Qin Feiyang, think of a way, or we'll all die here. Even if I open the gate of potential, I can't break free from the pressure of a combat emperor. What can I do? Qin Feiyang said helplessly. Don't we still have Chang Shui and the castle? Back at the Black Dragon Glacier, they could even suppress the heart of the demon dragon and the eye of the demon dragon, let alone this emperor's aura. Ask them to come out and help us. Mu Qing said angrily. They were still hiding it. That was enough. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Chang Shui and the castle did have the ability to help them, but they had to listen to his orders. Not arrogant anymore. Not angry anymore. And here I was wondering how tough your bones were. So that's all there is to it. Fine, I won't torture you. I'll let you die a quick death. Remember to keep a low profile in your next life. There are some people you can't afford to offend. Guoming laughed. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He suddenly raised his arm and swung it at the two's heads. The dagger in his hand flashed with a shocking light. I didn't expect to die in the hands of such a person. How sad. Mu Qing sighed deeply. But Qin Feiyang didn't give up. Because he didn't believe that Chang Shui and the castle would leave him in the lurch. Go to hell. Guoming roared. The dagger was about to pierce Qin Feiyang's head. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly spread between heaven and earth. But it didn't come from Chang Shui or the castle. The aura was erratic, and it was impossible to pinpoint the correct direction. The high priest and Guoming were shocked. They quickly scanned their surroundings. Qin Feiyang and the other man were also bewildered. There was actually another expert hiding here? The high priest shouted, the situation has changed. Get rid of them quickly. Guoming shuddered. He quickly grabbed the dagger and slashed at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing's necks. Boom! At the same time, an invisible force rose from somewhere in the mountain stream and rushed toward the high priest like a huge wave. Get lost! The high priest shouted angrily. He waved his hand, and a battle chi cut through the sky and collided with the invisible force. For a moment, mountains and rivers shattered, and the void distorted. Giant mountains collapsed one after another. The rumbling was like thunder, deafening. Puff! The high priest spat out a mouthful of blood. His old face quickly turned pale, and he was blasted away. The high priest was severely injured. The emperor's aura that imprisoned Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing also disappeared in an instant. The two fell down powerlessly. Damn it! Guoming was flustered and exasperated. He chased after them like lightning. Boom! But at the same time, that invisible force surged. Guoming's body trembled, and accompanied by a scream, he smashed into a giant mountain in the distance like a meteorite. With a loud bang, the giant mountain that was more than 10,000 feet tall collapsed in an instant. Huge rocks rolled down and buried him. Seeing this, the high priest's expression changed drastically. After stabilizing his body, he ignored Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing and hurriedly flew over. At the same time, that invisible force also swept up Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing and disappeared at the end of the world. How are you? A moment later, the high priest finally found Guoming. However, at this moment, Guoming's eyes were closed. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. His body was broken and dripping with blood. He can't die. The high priest was extremely anxious. He reached out and pressed on Guoming's neck. His eyes immediately lit up. There was a pulse. He was not dead. He could still be saved. He hurriedly took out a healing pill and stuffed it into Guoming's mouth. Then he picked up Guoming and looked in the direction where Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing had disappeared. He opened a portal and quickly left. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing let the invisible force take them forward. About a few hundred breaths later, the invisible force took the two of them and stopped at the top of a mountain. What's going on? Mu Qing half knelt on the ground, her face full of astonishment. God knows. Qin Feiyang muttered. He endured the severe pain and stood up. He glanced around and said loudly, "Senior, thank you for saving our lives." However, No one answered. That invisible force also quietly retreated. Mu Qing also got up and shouted, "Senior, you saved us. We must thank you properly. Please come out." But after waiting for a while, still no one responded. Has he left? Mu Qing was stunned. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, maybe he doesn't want us to know who he is? Is there such a good person in the world who does good deeds without leaving his name? Mu Qing expressed doubts. Don't make wild guesses. Even if he has ulterior motives, the fact that he saved us can't be erased. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Qing nodded. With a piercing cold light in her eyes, she said with a grim smile, the Sky Scorpion tribe must disappear. Qin Feiyang glanced at her and glanced around again. After waiting for a while and seeing no mysterious person appear, he took Mu Qing into the castle. The moment the two of them entered the castle, a golden figure appeared in the mountain stream below. This person was enveloped by a layer of golden light from head to toe. No one could see the person's face or tell whether he was a man or a woman. There was no aura on him at all. But he seemed to be integrated with the void, with an ethereal aura. If one didn't see him with their own eyes, even if he was standing behind them, they would never notice him. The mysterious person looked at the top of the mountain where Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing disappeared. She didn't say a word from beginning to end. A short while passed. She also opened a transmission door and disappeared without a trace. Inside the castle. Guoming, that bastard. If I don't kill him, Fat Lord is not a man. Yes, he must die. Looking at the shocking wound on Qin Feiyang's lower abdomen, Fatso and the others were all furious. Lu Hong glanced at Wolf King, Fatso, and the others and said angrily, cut the crap. Go and find the Spirit Sea Elixir. It doesn't matter. I've integrated with the fire of life. My Sea of Qi can be repaired without the Spirit Sea Elixir. It's him. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing raised his eyebrows and said anxiously, I don't have a spatial divine object, so my heart protection elixir and Spirit Sea Elixir are in my Qingquan bag. Now, we're in the same boat. You can't leave me to die. Do you know me well? Do you know how expensive the Spirit Sea Elixir and Heart Protection Elixir are? If you want, we can give them to you, but one elixir and one sacred weapon. Fatso said. Damn it, why don't you rob me? Mu Qing was mad. The sharp pain from his heart and sea of qi almost made him faint. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, okay, just give it to him. After all, if we want to eradicate the Scorpion tribe, the Mu family has to do it. Yes. Without the Mu family's help, with your ability, you're not enough to fill the gap between the teeth of the Scorpion tribe. Mu Qing smiled proudly. You're so cocky. Chapter 863. Mu Qing grabbed the Spirit Sea Elixir and Heart Protection Elixir and stuffed them into her mouth. She then crossed her legs and closed her eyes to recuperate. You guys continue to cultivate too. Qin Feiyang said to Fatso and the others before calming down to recuperate his qi ocean. At the same time. Main Pagoda. Elder Wu sat in the main hall with his eyes closed. He seemed to be resting but his expression was anxious. Buzz. Suddenly, the image crystal in his arms buzzed and vibrated. He hurriedly took it out and channeled his battle qi into it, causing a figure to appear. It was none other than the high priest of the Sky Scorpion tribe. At this moment, the high priest's old face was extremely dark. Seeing that, Elder Wu's heart skipped a beat. He waved his hand and the doors of the main hall closed quickly. He then looked at the high priest and asked, why do you look so pale? Did something happen? Yes. They managed to escape. The high priest nodded. What? Elder Wu suddenly stood up and said angrily, didn't we agree that as long as I deceived them, I would ensure that they would never return? Initially, there was no problem. However, at the critical moment, a mysterious person suddenly appeared and saved them. Ming'er was also severely injured by that person. We don't know if he's dead or alive. The leader said that you have to find a way to get rid of them as soon as possible. The high priest said in a deep voice with undisguised killing intent. That's impossible. I deceived them. You guys didn't have the ability to make them stay. I've already repaid the favor I owe you guys. I won't help you anymore. Elder Wu shook his head. You won't help? You have to think carefully. They already know that you're our accomplice. When they return to the Pill Pagoda, they'll definitely expose you. When Lu Xingfeng finds out, do you think you'll be able to survive? Even if Lu Xingfeng doesn't pursue the matter, the upper echelons of the Pill Pagoda won't allow someone who harmed their disciples to continue staying in the Pill Pagoda. The high priest sneered. Elder Wu's face darkened. Right now, we're on the same boat. If you help us, it's equivalent to helping yourself. I also promise you that as long as you can get rid of them, we won't owe each other anything from now on. The high priest said. Let me think. Elder Wu said weakly. He turned off the image crystal and sat on the armchair, looking extremely haggard. Time flew by. An hour passed. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang was the first to open his eyes. Not only had his qi been repaired, but his injuries had also healed. Are you done? He looked at Mu Qing and asked. Mu Qing opened her eyes and stood up. It's about time. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he said, then let's go back. Mu Qing nodded as a strong murderous intent filled the space between his brows. Wait. But at this moment, Lu Hong opened her beautiful eyes and looked at the two of them. What is it? Qin Feiyang and the other man looked at her suspiciously. Lu Hong took out the image crystal and said with a smile, I have recorded your conversation with Guoming. What? Mu Qing was stunned. He looked at Lu Hong and said, don't tell me you also recorded the conversation that was destroyed last time? Do you have a problem with that? Lu Hong asked. Mu Qing's mouth twitched violently. He turned to Qin Feiyang and said seriously, I like her. Can you give her to me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso and the others also opened their eyes and looked at Mu Qing in a daze. Ahem. Mu Qing coughed and said awkwardly, I think you have misunderstood. I like her attentiveness, and I happen to lack a maid, get lost. Before Mu Qing finished speaking, Qin Feiyang and the others shouted almost at the same time. Do you know Lu Hong's position in our hearts? Fat Lord, let me tell you, she is our little princess. How dare you say that you want her to be your maid? Are you looking for a beating? Fatso and Wolf King said. Their fierce eyes made Mu Qing a little scared. Hearing this, Lu Hong's eyes couldn't help but heat up. She really didn't expect that she had such a high position in everyone's hearts. Little princess, what an honor. Qin Feiyang also glanced at Mu Qing and said lightly, watch your words in the future. Don't get beaten up without knowing the reason. Ha! Mu Qing scratched his head and laughed dryly. Asking for a beating. I can't control the primitive force in my body. Hurry up and take him out. Wolf King waved his claws and said impatiently. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and looked at Lu Hong with a smile, well done. Now we don't have to be afraid of Elder Wu's sophistry. After saying that, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and left the ancient castle with Mu Qing. Then, he took out the Qinkuan bag that Elder Wu gave them and took out the only portal. Clang! Battle Qi surged and the portal quickly opened. The two of them stepped in one after another. The next moment, the two of them landed in the main hall. The door of the main hall was still closed and Elder Wu was still sitting on the armchair. Sensing the aura of the two of them, Elder Wu suddenly opened his eyes and two cold rays of light burst out. What's wrong? Do you still want to kill me? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other and looked at Elder Wu with cold eyes. Boom! Before he finished speaking, a terrifying sacred force rushed toward Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. At the same time, Elder Wu suddenly stood up, his eyes flashing with killing intent. It seems that I really want to kill you. Qin Feiyang laughed. Elder Wu didn't say anything or do anything. He just looked at the two of them. Mu Qing sneered. If you want to do it, hurry up. Otherwise, you won't have the chance. Sigh. A moment later, Elder Wu sighed helplessly and returned to the armchair. He also withdrew his sacred force. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. What was wrong with this person? Why didn't he kill them with such a good opportunity? You can leave. As for this matter, you can tell Divine Envoy Lu or even report it to the Chief Tower Master. I won't deny it. And this has nothing to do with the Scorpion tribe. It was my idea. Elder Wu said. What's going on? The two of them looked at each other. Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously and suddenly asked, Elder, is there something you can't say? No. Elder Wu shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, then why did you help Guoming to harm us? Why did you have to take the blame alone? Elder Wu pondered for a while and said, now that things have come to this, is it important? In my opinion, it is indeed not important. Because I won't let go of anyone who wants to harm me. But you are different. Just now, you clearly had the chance to kill us, but instead of doing so, you took the initiative to take the blame. It can be seen that you are a kind old man. So, if you are willing to tell me the reason, maybe I will forgive you. Qin Feiyang said. Elder Wu was silent. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, Guoming is narrow-minded. Is it worth sacrificing yourself for him? There was a hint of anger in his tone. I know better than you what kind of person Guoming is. But I have no choice. I owe the Scorpion tribe a favor. I have to repay it. Elder Wu sighed. What favor? Qin Feiyang asked. Elder Wu fell silent again. Old man, what's wrong with you? You finally have a chance to turn over a new leaf. Why don't you know how to cherish it? Even if not for yourself, think about your family. If you die, what will happen to your family? Mu Qing said angrily. Elder Wu's gaze trembled. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing and finally sighed. I owe them my life. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other and did not say anything, waiting for him to continue. Elder Wu lowered his head again, seemingly lost in his memories. A moment later, Elder Wu slowly recounted. It turned out that when Elder Wu was young, he accidentally barged into the Scorpion Mountain Range in search of medicinal herbs and killed several members of the Scorpion tribe. At that time, Elder Wu was still very weak. Against the Scorpion tribe, which was full of experts, he did not have any power to resist. Elder Wu thought that he would definitely die, but he did not expect the leader of the Scorpion tribe to let him go. And the so-called favor was the favor of not killing him. So that's the case. The two of them came to a realization. That's not right. The Scorpion tribe is one of the 10 super tribes of the Central Divine Kingdom and is famous. Why would you barge into their territory and kill their people? Mu Qing frowned. To be honest, I'm actually from one of the 9 regions like you. It was the pagoda master of the 9th region who recommended me to enter the main pagoda. And I had just entered the Central Divine Kingdom and did not know that it was the Scorpion tribe's territory. Elder Wu sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at Elder Wu with complicated expressions. Mu Qing said telepathically, should we kill him or not? Forget it. He's not a heinous person. Moreover, the real mastermind is the Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said. All right. Mu Qing nodded and looked at Elder Wu. We won't pursue this matter and won't mention it to anyone. You really won't pursue it? Elder Wu was stunned and somewhat in disbelief. Mu Qing said again, however, you'd better not have any contact with the Scorpion tribe. Elder Wu was overjoyed. He stood up and said gratefully, thank you. Don't worry, I've already repaid my debt. I won't bother with them anymore. That's good. Return the image crystal and cosmos bags to us. Mu Qing said. All right. Elder Wu took out their cosmos bags and image crystals and returned them to them. The two checked their cosmos bags and confirmed that nothing was missing. Mu Qing smiled faintly and said, what about our test? You must pass. Elder Wu laughed heartily and took out 2 tokens from his bosom, handing them over to the 2 of them. The tokens were the size of a baby's palm and were completely black. The front was blank and had a flame totem on it. Elder Wu said, engrave your names and you'll officially become disciples of the main pagoda. The 2 raised their arms at the same time and battle chi surged. They engraved their names on the front of the tokens. Here's your clothes. Elder Wu took out 2 more cosmos bags and handed them to Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Then, he said, you can go to the first pagoda. As for the alchemy room, you'll have to find the disciplinary elder of the first pagoda to arrange it for you. Thank you. The 2 cupped their fists and thanked him. Then, they turned and walked toward the door. Thank you. Elder Wu's grateful voice came from behind them. Chapter 864. Look. They're out. As soon as Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing walked out of the main hall, the disciples gathered in the distance began to discuss in low voices. They came out so quickly. It seems that they didn't pass the test. Are you blind? Didn't you see the identity tokens in their hands? You're right. That's too fast. They haven't even been in there for 2 hours. The group of people was in disbelief. Qin Feiyang raised his head and glanced at those people. Then, he soared into the air and flew toward the 10 pill towers. He had already noticed these people who wanted to see the world in chaos before entering the main hall, but he was too lazy to pay attention to them. Mu Qing caught up with Qin Feiyang and said, I thought about it. It's too easy to let Elder Wu go just like that. Qin Feiyang said, don't be so narrow-minded. Sometimes, if you're magnanimous, you might be able to get unexpected gains. I don't see any gains. Mu Qing pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang said, does Elder Wu's friendship not count? I can guarantee that after this matter is over, he will definitely treat us very well. For example? Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said, for example, if the Scorpion tribe wants to deal with us again, he will definitely inform us in advance. If they want to deal with us again? They don't have the chance anymore. Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He turned his head and looked at him in surprise. Why are you looking at me? I have to vent my anger. Otherwise, I'll feel terrible. Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyang turned his head and said expressionlessly, up to you, but you'd better not ruin my plan. What's your plan? Mu Qing came to Qin Feiyang's side and asked curiously. Qin Feiyang said lightly, isn't my plan your plan? Snatch the heavenly star flame. Don't give me that. You can fool others, but you can't fool me. You definitely have other motives. Otherwise, why would you insist on taking the Chief Tower Master as your master? Mu Qing chuckled. Qin Feiyang frowned. It was really a headache to get along with a smart person like Mu Qing. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked down at the identity token in his hand and asked, what's with this token? What do you mean what happened? Mu Qing was puzzled. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, your second grandpa's identity medallion is reddish gold. Why are our identity medallions black? Of course, the color of the token will be different as well. Mu Qing said. It was said that the disciples' medallions were all black. The deacon elder's token was white. The law enforcement elder's token was red. The tokens of the 10 Tower Masters and 10 Peak Masters were purple in color. The token of the God Envoy was pure gold in color. But other than that, there was another exception in the main tower. This exception was the martial arts list and the elixir list. Only the most outstanding alchemists and martial artists could be on these two lists. As for the disciples on the list, the color of their tokens was also purple. In other words, the status of these disciples in the main tower was almost the same as that of the law enforcement elder. I see. After Qin Feiyang heard this, he nodded in realization. The so-called martial arts list and elixir list were actually the same as the elixir list and martial god list of the Divine Hall. Junior brothers, please wait a moment. Suddenly, a clear voice sounded from behind the two of them. The two were slightly stunned. They stopped in the void and turned around to see a young man in white flying towards them. This person was tall and straight, with sword-like eyebrows and a faint smile on his face, giving people an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Are you calling us? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. The young man in white nodded and smiled. He landed in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Wu Yang, a disciple of the Second Tower. Nice to meet you, Wu Shixiang." Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing bowed politely. Junior brothers, you don't have to be so polite. May I ask, which tower did Elder Wu assign you to? Wu Yang asked with a smile. Qin Feiyang looked suspicious and said truthfully, the first tower. I see. Then I sincerely invite you two to join our second tower. Wu Yang didn't talk nonsense and directly stated his purpose. He was a straightforward person. Qin Feiyang was a little surprised. He secretly asked Mu Qing, "Is there a difference between the first tower and the second tower?" There is no difference between the 10 towers. It's the same no matter where you go. But it is said that the disciples of each tower are fighting openly and secretly. Mu Qing said with a voice transmission. Qin Feiyang said, "Do you mean this person is here to recruit us?" Definitely. After all, we have the Oracle token. Mu Qing said with a chuckle. To be honest, I've already prepared an alchemy room for you two before coming. And it's the best alchemy room. This humble one is truly sincere. I hope that the two junior brothers will agree. Wu Yang glanced at the two of them. He knew that the two of them were secretly communicating, so he struck while the iron was hot and tempted them. But he didn't know. His temptation might work on other new disciples, but it wasn't attractive to Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing at all. Qin Feiyang pretended to hesitate and said, "This was assigned by Elder Wu. It's not appropriate for us to go to the second tower now, is it?" Since there was no difference, there was no need to go to the second tower. As for the alchemy room, it wasn't important to him at all. It was dispensable. Because he had the netherworld demonic flame. However, since the other party came with sincerity, he couldn't directly refuse and embarrass him, right? Therefore, he said it very tactfully. When Wu Yang heard this, he raised his eyebrows without leaving a trace. He was obviously displeased, but he concealed it very well. It seems that I won't be able to invite the two of you with my personal charm. Forget it, I'll show my trump card. Wu Yang smiled helplessly and took out an identity token from his bosom. The badge was purple in color. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. This person was on the pill ranking? But this person's cultivation wasn't strong either. He was only an 8-star war sect. This is the identity token of Senior Brother Wushan, and Senior Brother Wushan is the king of the second tower. Perhaps the two junior brothers still don't know that only disciples who are on the pill ranking and martial ranking can obtain the title of king. And this time, it was Senior Brother Wushan who asked me to invite the two of you. Wu Yang laughed. Qin Feiyang was speechless. After all this time, it wasn't this person's identity token. Wushan. Wu Yang. These two people had the same surname. Could it be that they were related? So what if you're a king? Don't I have a king in the first tower? At this time, another voice came from the void not far away, with a hint of mockery in it. It's getting lively. Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu smiled inwardly. When they raised their heads, they saw a young man flying over with lightning speed. This person was also wearing a white robe. His slender body was as straight as a sword, and his black hair danced in the wind, emitting an astonishing sharp aura. The flame symbol on his chest was extremely eye-catching. Seeing this person, the smile on Wu Yang's face immediately disappeared and was replaced by a trace of sharpness. Shua. The black-haired man stopped beside Qin Feiyang and said, I am Mo Feng, a disciple of the first tower. This person was serious in speech and manner, and his gaze was cold and sharp, giving off a strange feeling that he was 1,000 miles away. And this person's cultivation was also that of an 8-star war sect. Qin Day. Ancestor Mu. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing also reported their names. Uncle. Ancestor. This name, Mo Feng's face twitched as he looked at Wu Yang and said, You actually stopped us halfway. Your second tower is really shameless. That's too much. It's their freedom to go wherever they want. What do you care? Wu Yang said indifferently, with a hint of tit for tat. It's none of my business. But they definitely won't go. Mo Feng smiled disdainfully. He looked at Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu and said, Junior brothers, we've also prepared an alchemy room for the two of you. We've even prepared a great gift, 2 6th-grade alchemy furnaces. 6th-grade pill furnaces. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. These people really knew how to spend a lot of money. Did you see that? This is the benefit of the Oracle token. Without the Oracle token, they wouldn't care about us. Mu Qing snickered. However, Wu Yang frowned. He also didn't expect the first tower to be so generous. One had to know. A 6th-grade pill furnace was already comparable to a rare treasure. It was basically priceless. Even if there was, people without a family background couldn't buy it. And this first tower actually gave out 2 6th-grade pill furnaces. This was much more tempting than the conditions he offered. The pill furnaces are in the pill refining room we have prepared for you. As long as you go to the first tower, they will be yours. Mo Feng continued. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, Senior brother is too polite. Elder Wu originally arranged for us to go to the first tower. Even without these, we would still go. My 2 junior brothers indeed have good eyes. Then, follow me. Hearing Qin Feiyang say so, Mo Feng was very satisfied and turned to fly towards the pill tower. Wu Shixiang, I'm sorry. Qin Feiyang faced Wu Yang and said apologetically, then turned and flew towards Mo Feng. Wu Yang's face was very ugly. He snorted coldly and said, If you want the 6th-grade pill furnaces, just say it. Why are you so hypocritical? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, stopped and looked at Wu Yang, and said, What did you say? From the beginning to the end, he had been very polite. It wasn't that he was afraid of trouble, but that he didn't want to cause trouble. But this Wu Yang actually said that he was hypocritical. Didn't you hear me clearly? I said that you are hypocritical. Tell me with your conscience, if the first tower didn't give you a 6th-grade pill furnace, would you choose to go to the first tower? Wu Yang sneered. Well, I'll tell you with my conscience, even if your second tower gives me a divine pill, I'm not interested, understand? Qin Feiyang said. This sentence could be said to be a slap in the face. Wu Yang's face instantly darkened. Interesting. And Mo Feng also stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang and Wu Yang, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. This smile was very bright. Seeing Mo Feng smiling at the side, Wu Yang was even more furious. Swish. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said word by word, You will regret it. Regret? Qin Feiyang smiled and said indifferently, Don't provoke me again, or the one who will regret it will not be me, but you. After saying that, he turned to look at Mo Fong and said with a smile, "Senior brother Mo, let's go." Okay. Chapter 865. Whoosh. Just as Qin Feiyang and the other two left, another 8 young men and women landed beside Wu Yang. Looks like we're late. First Pagoda has really picked up a big bargain this time. Looking at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing's fading figures, the 8 of them had a look of pity. Suddenly, a woman in white looked at Wu Yang and asked, "Didn't you arrive earlier than Mo Fong? Why didn't you intercept them successfully?" Wu Yang glanced at the 8 of them and didn't say anything. With a gloomy face, he rushed towards Second Pagoda. Looking at his face, he must have been defeated. I wonder what kind of tempting conditions the people of First Pagoda offered. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's go back and report. The 8 of them discussed for a while and then went back to their respective residences. Back to Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Under Mo Feng's lead, the 2 of them stopped in the air above a large hall. The large hall was more than 10 meters high and had a total of 2 floors. It was dark and emitted an ancient aura. This is the law enforcement hall of our Pill Pagoda. The law enforcing elders who are in charge of our 10 Pill Pagoda live here. If you have any problems in the future, you can come here directly to find them. Of course, the disciples of First Pagoda can only find the elders who are in charge of First Pagoda. The law enforcing elder of First Pagoda is called Zhu Deyuan. He is a 9-star battle saint and is very kind to people. However, if you anger him, his temper is not ordinary. Mo Fong explained. Who doesn't have a temper? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, remembering this name. Immediately, he raised his head and looked around. The 10 Pill Pagoda were built around the law enforcement hall. They towered high and emitted a majestic aura. Compared to these 10 Pill Pagoda, the law enforcement hall was like a speck of dust. Previously, when looking from afar, the 10 Pill Pagoda were gathered together and close to each other. Now that he looked closer, he realized that there was a long distance between each Pill Pagoda. According to Qin Feiyang's estimation, there was at least a distance of 5 to 6 miles. Beside each Pill Pagoda, there was a stone tablet erected. The stone tablets were about 10 meters tall, and there was a number engraved on each of them. On a scale of 1 to 10. In other words, the stone tablet with the word 1 carved on it was the first tower, and the stone tablet with the word 2 was the second tower. Let's go. Mo Fong waved his hand and brought the 2 of them, flying straight towards the first tower. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Senior apprentice brother Mo, how did you know we were assigned to the first tower?" Mo Fong said, "Because we are paying attention to you, including the people from the other 9 pagodas." Attention? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. You guys have caused such a huge ruckus in the North City. Even the high priest of the Scorpion tribe has come. It's hard for us not to know even if we want to. After that, I heard that you had entered the examination hall. I immediately sent people to the examination hall to pay attention to your movements. After I found out that you all had passed the test, I sent a message to Elder Wu. Only then did I find out that you all had been assigned to our first tower. I also anticipated that the people from the other 9 pagodas would definitely go and intercept you all. That's why I specially came to receive you all. Mo Fong said. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Mo Fong continued, but to be honest, before I saw you guys, I still somewhat looked down on you guys. Why? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were taken aback and looked at him suspiciously. Because in my opinion, you guys relied on your relationship with Divine Envoy Lu Xingfeng to successfully enter the Pill Pagoda. But just now, when I saw your attitude towards Wu Yang, I realized that I had underestimated you guys. Mo Fong said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and smiled. Senior apprentice brother Mo is really a frank person. I don't like to keep my words to myself. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me. Mo Fong said expressionlessly. Even his apology was so cold, which really made Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing feel a little helpless. Senior apprentice brother Mo is too serious. Actually, I like to associate with straightforward people like senior apprentice brother Mo. It's very relaxed, very comfortable, and there's no need to scheme. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. A faint smile finally appeared on Mo Feng's face. This also meant that he agreed with Qin Feiyang's words. However, although you are confident, you still have to be careful of Wu Yang and Wu Shan in the future. Because these two people are from the Qilan tribe. Also, although Wu Yang looks like a gentleman on the surface, he is actually a sinister villain. This time you have offended him, so he will definitely find a chance to take revenge. Mo Feng warned again. Qilan tribe? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. Enemies really meet on a narrow road. Qin Feiyang asked, Senior apprentice brother Mo, are there people from the top 10 tribes in the main pagoda? Yes. And they occupy all the spots on the martial roll and elixir roll. The king of our pagoda, senior apprentice brother Pei Yi, is from the divine python tribe. Mo Feng said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Mu Qing asked, what about the sky scorpion tribe? There are many people in the sky scorpion tribe, but only two people are the most famous. One is Guiyun, and the other is Guofeng. Guiyun is the king of the third pagoda of the Pill Pagoda, and Guofeng is the king of the third peak of the Warrior Mountain Range. Both of them have reached the peak of the 9-star Battle Master and are only half a step away from the Battle Saint realm. And the reason why Guoming dares to be so arrogant is because he has the support of these two people. I know, because of Guoming, you will definitely target the people of the Sky Scorpion tribe. But I have to advise you, it's best not to go. Although you have the Divine Envoy token, it's too easy for them to plot against you. And as long as you stay in the pagoda and don't cause trouble, senior apprentice brother Pei Yi will always be your backer. Mo Feng warned. Plot. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing sneered inwardly. Since you are so good at plotting against others, let's see who can out-scheme who. But on the surface, both of them nodded in agreement. After all, Mo Feng had good intentions. While talking, the three of them landed in front of the pagoda. The tall pagoda door was closed, and there were no disciples wandering around nearby. The disciples of our main pagoda are basically cultivating when they have nothing to do. Very few of them are wandering outside. And the key to open the pagoda door is our identity token. Mo Feng took out his identity token and poured his battle chi into it. A black light swept out and merged into the pagoda door. Boom! Immediately, the pagoda door opened quickly, and a wide corridor appeared in front of the two of them. On both sides of the corridor, there was a stone door every 3 meters. Behind the stone door was the alchemy room. Follow me. Mo Feng turned into a stream of light and rushed into the depths of the corridor. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing followed closely behind. After the three of them left, the pagoda door closed automatically. A moment later, the three of them came to the center of the stone pagoda. In the center was a circular patio. Standing in the patio tribe, they could clearly see the top of the stone pagoda. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing followed Mo Feng and flew directly to the top floor. Subsequently, Mo Feng led the two of them to the space between the two stone doors and said, "These two alchemy rooms are specially prepared for you." Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing raised their heads to look. On the stone door, there was a number, namely 10 and 9. The two of them were quite surprised. They actually arranged such a front alchemy room for them? The Divine Envoy's token was really useful. I'm in the third alchemy room. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to look for me. In addition, we also have people from the Scorpion tribe in the first pagoda. Be careful. Mo Feng reminded them and turned to the other side. But he didn't go back to the third alchemy room, but to the first alchemy room. The owner of the first alchemy room should be the king of the first pagoda, Pei Yi. Mu Qing muttered. Why? want to snatch it? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Mu Qing's eyes were full of disdain. This time, he entered the main pagoda to snatch the Tiangang flame. The alchemy room was not important at all. He glanced at the 9th and 10th alchemy rooms and asked, "Which one do you want?" "Whatever." Qin Feiyang shrugged his shoulders. Hearing that, Mu Qing directly walked into the 9th alchemy room. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Mo Feng. His eyes flashed and he also followed into the 10th alchemy room. This alchemy room was very large. It was estimated to be more than 100 feet. There was a separate lounge, an alchemy room, and a cultivation room. And it was very clean and tidy. Qin Feiyang looked around and entered the alchemy room. On the alchemy table, there was indeed an alchemy furnace made of green copper. A lifelike fire phoenix was engraved on the wall, emitting a dazzling light. He walked to the front of the alchemy furnace and curiously looked at it for a while. Then he cut his finger and dripped blood to bind it. At that moment, a piece of information flowed into his mind. 6th grade alchemy furnace, fire phoenix furnace. Not bad. Looking at the fire phoenix furnace, Qin Feiyang's face was full of smiles. No matter what the other party's reason was, he would accept this alchemy furnace. And last time in Tianxian City, when he snatched the Tianxian flame, he also took Wu Yang's alchemy furnace. That alchemy furnace was called the Scorching Sun Furnace, which was also a 6th grade alchemy furnace. Now, with this fire phoenix furnace, he had 2 6th grade alchemy furnaces. Even if the furnace accidentally exploded in the future, he didn't have to worry about the alchemy furnace. Then, he pressed a button next to him, and a burst of alchemy fire suddenly surged out from the center of the alchemy table. The temperature of the alchemy room also rose rapidly. Looking at the alchemy fire, Qin Feiyang's face had a trace of surprise. This alchemy fire was actually white, like bone fire. The most important thing was that the aura it emitted was actually stronger than the netherworld devil flame. Could it be a 7th grade alchemy fire? Thinking of this, he hurriedly mobilized his mental force and rushed towards the alchemy fire. At the same time, alchemy room number 1. This alchemy room was twice as big as Qin Feiyang's alchemy room. Inside the lounge, a purple-clothed youth was leaning against a chair. This person was as divine as jade, with an otherworldly temperament. His eyes were like 2 bright moons, emitting a mysterious color. At this moment, Mo Feng stood in front of this person, his expression full of respect, and said, "I have already arranged for them." The purple-clothed youth nodded with a smile and asked, "What do you think of them?" Mo Feng thought for a moment, then said, a bit mysterious, "I can't see through it." "What about cultivation?" the purple-clothed youth asked again. Mo Feng said, "One is an 8-star war sect, the other is a 5-star war sect." "Not bad." The purple-clothed youth nodded and laughed. "After all, they are Divine Envoy Willow's people. Take care of them in the future." "All right." Mo Feng nodded, muttered to himself for a moment, and then said, "I don't understand, even if they are related to Divine Envoy Willow, there is no need to give them a 6th grade pill furnace. Your eyes are still not good enough. Do you really think that I'm doing this because of Divine Envoy Willow?" Chapter 866. Mo Feng paused and asked, "Isn't that the case? Divine Representative Lu is definitely part of the reason, but the main reason is because of what they said to Fu Anshan and the Sky Scorpion tribe's high priest when they left the Northern City Exchange Pavilion." The purple-clothed youth said. "What did they say?" Mo Feng was suspicious. "They said that Fu Anshan and the Sky Scorpion tribe's high priest would soon find them and kneel down." "Think about it, why would they dare to say such a thing?" the purple-clothed youth said. Mo Feng scratched his head and couldn't figure it out. Although these people had Lu Xingfeng's support, Fu Anshan and the Sky Scorpion tribe's high priest weren't ordinary people either. Logically speaking, these people shouldn't be so arrogant in front of Fu Anshan and the high priest. The purple-clothed youth suddenly raised his hand and pointed his index finger. There's only one explanation for them to say such a thing. What? Mo Feng was surprised. Apart from Lu Xingfeng, there's also a huge force behind them, and this force isn't any weaker than the Sky Scorpion tribe and the Exchange Pavilion. The purple-clothed youth smiled. Mo Feng's expression froze, and he hurriedly said, "That's impossible. There's nothing impossible in this world. Moreover, didn't you say that these two people are very mysterious and can't be seen through? Moreover, if they're just ordinary people, how could they know Lu Xingfeng? You have to know that Lu Xingfeng is from the Central Divine Kingdom, and they claim to be from the 9 regions. Most importantly, the Divine Representative Token has an extraordinary deterrent effect on the Forgotten Continent. The Divine Messengers wouldn't easily give it to others, so why would Lu Xingfeng give it to them?" The purple-clothed youth smiled faintly. "What you mean is that the two of them are most likely people from some super tribe, and the current them are just fake faces after changing their appearances?" Mo Feng said in shock. The purple-clothed youth smiled. "This is only my guess. I still need to investigate whether it's true or not." Mo Feng said, "Then I'll go investigate." "It's better if you don't go. After all, it's easy to offend people, so let nature take its course. I'm also looking forward to seeing how they make Fu Anshan and the high priest kneel down and beg them." The purple-clothed youth smiled faintly. "I understand." Mo Feng nodded, a strange light flashing in his eyes. "Ancestor Mu, Qin Day, come out quickly." But suddenly, an old voice could be heard coming from outside. Mo Feng and the purple-clothed youth were stunned. The purple-robed youth said, "It sounds like Elder Wu's voice. Go out and take a look." "All right." Mo Feng turned around and quickly walked out of the pill refining room. Standing in front of the railing of the corridor, he looked down and indeed, he saw Elder Wu at the bottom of the courtyard. "What's the situation?" A trace of suspicion crept into his eyes as he asked, "Elder Wu, is something the matter?" Elder Wu nodded and asked, "Which pill refining room is Ancestor Mu and the rest in?" Mo Feng replied honestly, "Pill refining rooms 9 and 10. I'll call them out immediately." "Don't bother, I'll go find them myself." Elder Wu chuckled and with a leap, he landed in front of pill refinement room 9. Without waiting for him to knock, the stone doors of pill refining rooms number 9 and number 10 opened automatically. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing walked out one after another. "Elder, you've missed us so quickly?" Mu Qing teased. Elder Wu rolled his eyes at him and said in a low voice, "Let's talk inside." With that, he took the lead and entered Mu Qing's pill refining room. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing exchanged glances. With a trace of suspicion, they followed in and closed the stone door tightly. At the same time, apart from Mo Feng, the other disciples also walked out of the pill refining rooms one after another and raised their heads to look at pill refining room 9 suspiciously. Some of them even had a hint of viciousness in their eyes. Without a doubt, these people were definitely from the Scorpion tribe. In the pill refining room, Elder Wu looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing with a serious expression. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. "Elder, what's the matter?" Elder Wu said, "The high priest of the Scorpion tribe sent me another message just now." "He's not done, is he?" Mu Qing raised his eyebrows, looking extremely vicious. "Calm down." Qin Feiyang glared at him and looked at Elder Wu. "What did he say?" "He said that if I don't cooperate with them, they'll attack my family. I really don't know what to do now. Can you help me?" Elder Wu looked at the two of them pleadingly. Mu Qing said, "This is easy to solve. You can go directly to the Chief Tower Master and ask him to seek justice for you." "Are you an idiot? If Elder Wu goes to the Chief Tower Master and explains everything, won't the Chief Tower Master know that Elder Wu set us up? Do you think the Chief Tower Master will let off someone who set his disciples up so easily?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Couldn't he use his brain when speaking? He asked for it. Mu Qing pursed his lips. Hearing that, Elder Wu looked rather embarrassed. Enough. It's already in the past. Don't harp on it. The most important thing now is to find a way to get rid of the malignant tumor that is the Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Qing glanced at Elder Wu, lowered his head, and pondered for a while. Then, he waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, your family will be fine. Go back." Elder Wu was surprised. Mu Qing said, "Don't ask anything. Thank you." Elder Wu took a deep look at Mu Qing and bowed. He then turned around and left. Mu Qing followed and closed the stone door. His face immediately turned cold and he said, "I haven't gone to settle the score with them yet, and they're thinking of ways to deal with us. These people are really stubborn." "What's your plan?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Do we need a plan to deal with them?" Mu Qing smiled disdainfully. He took out an image crystal and his battle chi surged. Buzz. After a few breaths, an old figure appeared. It was an old man in purple. His face was ruddy and full of energy. His aura was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. Mu Qing bowed and said, "Greetings, second forefather." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows but did not say anything. Mu clan's second forefather naturally saw Qin Feiyang and asked, "Is everything going well?" Mu Qing shook his head and said, "No, we were almost killed." His face was full of grievance. "Who has the guts?" Mu clan's second forefather frowned. The anger on his old face was clearly visible. "The Sky Scorpion tribe." Mu Qing immediately told him what happened today in detail. And he even added some details. Outrageous, the Sky Scorpion tribe is simply courting death. Unsurprisingly, after listening to Mu Qing's story, Mu clan's second forefather flew into a rage. Mu Qing had activated the Heavenly Eye Battle Soul. Everyone in the Mu clan, including the great forefather and second forefather, had high hopes for him. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Mu Qing was the little emperor of the Mu clan. He could call for wind and rain. Just like last time, Qin Feiyang stole the heavenly thunder sword from Mu Qing's hands and lost 3 battle saints. If it were someone else, they would have died long ago after making such a big mistake. But after Mu Qing went back, he was only scolded a few words and left unsettled. One could imagine how much the Mu clan doted on Mu Qing. And this time, the Sky Scorpion tribe actually plotted against Mu Qing and almost killed him. This was tantamount to touching the Mu clan's reverse scale. Mu clan's second forefather said, "Tell me, how do you want to deal with the Sky Scorpion tribe?" There was a bone-piercing chill in his voice. Mu Qing said without hesitation, "I want them to disappear." This, Mu clan's second forefather was shocked. He never thought that Mu Qing would want to eradicate the entire Sky Scorpion tribe. Pondering for a moment, Mu clan's second forefather said, "Qing, this matter needs to be discussed at length." "Why? Isn't it just a Sky Scorpion tribe? What does it matter if we get rid of it?" Mu Qing frowned. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard this. One must know. The Sky Scorpion tribe was a real super tribe, standing at the top of the pyramid of the Forgotten Continent. In the entire tribe, who knows how many battle saints and battle emperors there were. But this guy actually said that it wasn't just a Sky Scorpion tribe? What could be more contemptuous than this sentence? Perhaps in this vast continent, only this bastard dared to say such arrogant words. The Sky Scorpion tribe is indeed nothing, but now is a critical period. If we make a move on the Sky Scorpion tribe now, I'm afraid it will cause unnecessary trouble. Just bear with it for now. When we get the heavenly flames, I promise you that I will immediately destroy the Sky Scorpion tribe. Mu clan's second forefather said with a tone of flattery. "Forefather, you worry too much. As long as we do it cleanly, who will know that it was our Mu clan who did it?" Mu Qing said. This, Mu clan's second forefather frowned. Hey, forefather, don't say that I'm threatening you. If we don't get rid of the Sky Scorpion tribe now, Qin Feiyang and I will feel uncomfortable in our hearts. If we feel uncomfortable, then we won't be so enthusiastic about snatching the heavenly flames. Mu Qing said slowly, with a smirk on his face. Isn't this a threat? Mu Clan's second forefather's face darkened. Hee hee. Mu Qing laughed again and again. At this time, Qin Feiyang, who had been silent, opened his mouth and said, in fact, we don't have to worry, we can completely shift the blame to others. Mu Clan's second forefather Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. That mysterious lady, doesn't she always like to frame others? This time we also let her take the blame. Qin Feiyang said. Good idea. Mu Qing's eyes lit up and he nodded repeatedly. Mu Clan's second forefather pondered for a while and nodded in agreement. Speaking of her, this old man wants to ask you, do you know her origin? Qin Feiyang shook his head. That's strange. She framed you and helped you at the same time. What is she doing? Mu Clan's second forefather frowned. This question had puzzled him for a long time. I don't know either. In short, this woman is unpredictable. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. This old man will discuss with the forefather later. If he agrees, I will take you to wash the Sky Scorpion tribe with blood. Mu Clan's second forefather nodded. Hurry up. Mu Qing urged. Haste won't get you anywhere. Mu Clan's second forefather rolled his eyes at him, and the shadow quickly disappeared. How about it? It's not a loss to cooperate with my Mu Clan. After Mu Qing put away the image crystal, he turned and looked at Qin Feiyang proudly. Show off. Chapter 867. Do you really want to frame her? As soon as Fatso came out, he asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although over the years, they also got a lot of benefits from the hands of the mysterious lady. But the mysterious lady also accounted for a large part of the reason why he fell to this point today. So he had to let this woman have a taste of what it was like to be framed. Indeed, she should also suffer. Fatso nodded and then smirked. When she receives the news, she will definitely be mad. Not necessarily. In this woman's eyes, maybe like the Mu family, the Scorpion tribe is just a small role. Forget it, there is nothing to talk about. You go to the East City Trading Pavilion now and give the list of medicinal materials to Li He. Qin Feiyang said. Just to buy the medicinal materials of the 9-turn dragon blood pill and small creation pill? Fatso asked. Potential pill, 9-turn yellow dragon pills medicinal materials are also bought. These pills, although useless to us, are undoubtedly the treasures of heaven and earth for others. Qin Feiyang smiled. I understand. Fatso nodded. In addition, when making the list, you have to mix up the medicinal materials of these pills, so as not to be seen by Li He. Qin Feiyang warned. Do I need you to say this? Fatso rolled his eyes at him, opened a portal and left. Qin Feiyang entered the alchemy room, his spiritual force emerged and continued to fuse with the alchemy fire. Time passed by little by little. Half an hour later, his spiritual force had not fused with the alchemy fire. After being burned by the alchemy fire for half an hour, his spiritual force was already very tired. However, the excitement on his face was hard to hide. Because this meant that the alchemy fire here must be a 7th grade alchemy fire. Using the 7th grade alchemy fire to refine the small creation pill and the 9-turn dragon blood pill, he could refine 6 alchemy patterns. 6 alchemy patterns meant a 60% success rate. This was a big surprise for him. Another half an hour passed, and his spiritual force finally fused with the alchemy fire. A piece of information flowed into his mind. 7th grade alchemy fire, white bone flame. However, after the pleasant surprise, Qin Feiyang frowned again. Just fusing the alchemy fire had consumed more than half of his mental energy. Wouldn't that be soon? At this rate, he reckoned that he wouldn't be able to refine many pills before his spiritual power was exhausted. Looks like my level 20 spiritual power is about to reach the bottleneck. Qin Feiyang mumbled. The duration of refining pills was closely related to the strength of one's mental strength. If, with his level 20 spiritual power, he could refine continuously for 10 days without stopping. If it was a level 10 spiritual power, he would only be able to continuously refine for 5 days before his spiritual power would be exhausted. In short, the stronger one's mental strength was, the longer it would take to refine pills. Of course, this was also related to the grade of the medicinal pill. The lower the grade of the pill, the less mental energy it required. On the contrary, the higher the grade, the more mental power one would need to consume during the refining process. In short, now, he had to think of a way to increase the strength of his mental strength. However, he had never heard of anything that could increase the strength of one's mental strength. My head hurts. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead and temporarily suppressed this thought. He sat cross-legged and recovered his mental strength. After his mental strength recovered, he took out dozens of medicinal herbs for the healing pill, concentrated for a moment, and began to refine pills. He had just fused with the white bone flame and knew nothing about it. As such, he didn't dare to refine the small creation pill and the 9 transformation dragon blood pill directly. After all, the medicinal herbs for these 2 pills were extremely precious. If they were accidentally ruined, his heart would bleed. Therefore, he first used the healing pill to familiarize himself with the white bone flame. Anyway, the healing pill was not worth much. It didn't matter how many were ruined. True enough, the level 7 alchemy fire was extremely difficult to control. The medicinal herbs for the healing pill were ruined one by one. It wasn't until Qin Feiyang's 10th attempt that he successfully refined a healing pill. It didn't disappoint and 6 alchemy veins appeared. Immediately, he continued to refine pills. An hour passed. Qin Feiyang felt that he could already control the white bone flame. Therefore, he took out some medicinal herbs for the qi gathering pill, battle qi pill, potential pill, and potential pill. In short, he had to refine all the pills that he had refined before. By doing so, he could have a deeper understanding of the white bone flame. Naturally, he could also train to have a more precise control of the white bone flame. This was the so-called practice makes perfect. Another half an hour passed. Qin Feiyang's body suddenly shook violently and fell to the ground. This was caused by excessive consumption of mental strength. He supported himself on the alchemy table with one hand and rubbed his head with the other. His face was full of disbelief. With his level 20 mental strength, he could only refine continuously for 2 hours. This was far beyond his expectations. Wasn't this consumption too terrifying? Swish. At this moment, Fatso appeared out of thin air in the alchemy room. Seeing Qin Feiyang's situation, he hurriedly went up to support Qin Feiyang and said in shock, "What's going on? Why are you so weak?" Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged on the ground and explained briefly. Grade 7 pill fire? Fatso looked at the white bone flame in surprise. Qin Feiyang asked, "How's the purchase of medicinal herbs?" Mentioning this matter, Fatso's face sank slightly. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Fatso said, "The medicinal herbs trading pavilion has all these, but not much." "Not much?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso said, "To be exact, it's very little." "That's impossible. No one in the Forgotten Continent knows how to refine these pills. How can there be no medicinal herbs?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "That's the main point. I've asked Li he said that every once in a while, someone will go and purchase these medicinal herbs. And it's a large purchase." Fatso said in a deep voice. "What? Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. Why would someone purchase these medicinal herbs? Could it be that there are also people in the Forgotten Continent who have the pill formulas of these pills? But how is this possible? Boss, Fat Lord, I have to remind you that you're not the only one who knows the pill formulas of these pills. Fatso said. N? Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso in surprise. Fatso said in a low voice, have you forgotten? The pill scripture that we obtained was left behind by Mu Tianyang. Boom! As soon as these words came out, Qin Feiyang was like a bolt from the blue, his body and mind trembling. That's right. The pill scripture was left behind by Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang naturally knew about it. Fat Lord has a bold guess. There should be a descendant of Mu Tianyang hiding in the Central Divine Kingdom. Otherwise, why would he purchase these medicinal herbs? Moreover, he doesn't want the medicinal herbs of other pills. Why would he only purchase the medicinal herbs of these few pills? Fatso said. Could it be that this Mu family is really related to Mu Tianyang? Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. Because the Mu family was the most suspicious. First, they were ridiculously strong. Second, they were not native to the Forgotten Continent. Third, Mu Qing entered the 9th level of hell to find Lu Xingchen. And this was also the biggest suspicious point. Because, to go to the 9th level of hell, one must first know the coordinates of the 9th level of hell. And how did the Mu family know the coordinates of the 9th level of hell? Qin Feiyang felt that the layers of fog in his heart were gradually dispersing. He waved his hand and took Yan Wei out of the castle. Qin Feiyang looked at the two and said in a deep voice, from now on, don't do anything, just focus on investigating the person who purchased the medicinal herbs. The two nodded. Fatso thought for a moment and asked, if the Mu family is really Mu Tianyang's descendant, how do you plan to deal with them? Back then, the ancestors of the Great Qin Empire destroyed the Tianyang Empire. Mu Tianyang will definitely not let it go. And if the Mu family is really Mu Tianyang's descendant, they will definitely make a comeback. Although the current emperor has wronged me, the blood of the Qin clan still flows in my body. I can settle the score with the current emperor, but I will not allow anyone to shake the Great Qin Empire. Qin Feiyang said. Every word was powerful and resolute. Fatso and the other two looked at each other. At this moment, Qin Feiyang exuded an amazing aura, like the return of a king, making people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Perhaps, this was Qin Feiyang's original temperament. Fatso nodded and said, I understand, we will go now. Wait. With your current strength, you can't control the overall situation. Wait for me to refine the 9 transformation dragon blood pill to strengthen Yan Wei's strength, then you can go. Qin Feiyang said and closed his eyes to recover his mental strength. Yan Wei was stunned and turned to look at Fatso. He asked secretly, what is the 9 transformation dragon blood pill? It's a kind of pill that can improve your strength by leaps and bounds. You are in luck. Fatso laughed secretly. Yan Wei's eyes lit up and couldn't help but look forward to it. If it was in the past, he would definitely not believe it. But now, with his deeper understanding, he knew that this was a group of people who could create miracles. There were way too many shining points in them. Anything that was impossible could become possible. Time passed quickly. Night was about to fall. Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes and the fatigue on his face was gone. Fatso ran to the elixir refinement platform excitedly and took out the herbs for the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Qin Feiyang stood up and scanned them one by one, frowning. Where's the dragon blood? I'm looking for it. Fatso rummaged through his universe bag and mumbled, what's going on? Why can't I find it? Qin Feiyang raised his brow. Can't find it? What a joke. Dragon blood was the most important herb for the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. How could he refine it if he couldn't find it? I really can't find it. Fatso frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang, asking, is it with you? Aren't you the one taking care of all these precious herbs? Qin Feiyang said angrily. That's right, but I don't have it with me. Could it have been stolen by a thief? Fatso frowned and was extremely anxious. Thief? Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. If it was really stolen by a thief, he would have stolen Fatso's universe bag as well. How could he have only stolen the dragon blood? Qin Feiyang said, think about it carefully. Is there anywhere else? This. Chapter 868. Hurry up. Qin Feiyang urged. In this era, dragon's blood was very rare. Even if you had power and influence, you wouldn't be able to get it. And those 10 drops of dragon's blood were exchanged from Sun to Hai with great difficulty. How could he lose such an important thing? This bastard was getting more and more unreliable. I can't remember. A moment later. Fatso looked at Qin Feiyang timidly and shook his head. Qin Feiyang was about to fly into a rage, but suddenly, he noticed that there was a hint of mockery in Fatso's eyes. Are you playing with me? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a sullen face, give me the Qianquan bag, I'll look for it. I really don't have it. Fatso panicked and hurriedly said. Give it to me. Qin Feiyang's eyes became colder and colder, and his tone was inviolable. Fatso said aggrievedly, why don't you believe Fat Lord? When has Fat Lord ever lied to you? Still pretending? Are you asking for a beating? Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and he slapped Fatso's head and said angrily, hurry up and take it out. Fatso shrunk his neck and said with an embarrassed smile, you found out. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Are you cut out to be an actor? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. But in his heart, he approved of Fatso's acting skills very much. Because at the beginning, he was really scared. Because later, when Fatso saw that he believed him, he was a little complacent and revealed a flaw. Otherwise, he would still be in the dark. After being exposed by Qin Feiyang, Fatso looked quite embarrassed and obediently took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle was very small, about the size of a little finger, and half filled with blood. If you do this again, don't blame me for being impolite. Qin Feiyang snatched the jade bottle and fiercely glared at Fatso. Then, he took out a drop of dragon blood and returned the jade bottle to Fatso. Then, he walked to the front of the pill furnace. It's just a joke. Seriously. Fatso mumbled, looking very wronged. When Yen Wei heard this, he couldn't help but shake his head. He then turned to look at Qin Feiyang's back, his face full of anticipation. As for Qin Feiyang, he stood in front of the pill furnace. He didn't immediately open the furnace to refine the pills. Instead, he closed his eyes and calmed himself. Because it was his first time refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood pill, he could not be careless. However, he wasn't too worried about it. According to the pill scripture, the difficulty of refining the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood pill and the minor creation pill was about the same. With the experience of refining the small creation pill, as long as he was careful when refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood pill, he should be able to succeed on his first try. Whoosh! Several hundred breaths passed. Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes. His entire body and mind had already entered the heart-like still water state. Whoosh! Mental strength also emerged from the top of his head and rushed towards the white bone flame. While Qin Feiyang was refining the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood pill, in the first alchemy room of the second pagoda, a young man in black stood in the alchemy room, concentrating on refining the pills. This person was about 1.8 meters tall and was as straight as a pine tree. His black hair was like a waterfall, and his facial features were as sharp as knives. His entire body exuded a fierce aura. In the lounge of the alchemy room, a young man in white was pacing back and forth with an extremely gloomy face. It was Wu Yang. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I've already given them enough face by personally inviting them. How dare they reject me? Brother Sean, if I don't vent my disgust, I will continue to feel uncomfortable. Wu Yang walked to the door of the alchemy room and looked at the young man in black. Elder Wu originally arranged for them to go to the first pagoda. They did nothing wrong. What's there to be angry about? The young man in black smiled faintly as he refined the pills. However, his eyes were shining with a fierce light. But by doing this, aren't they looking down on us? Wu Yang said angrily. They don't even care about Fu Anshan and the high priest of the Scorpio tribe, let alone us. All right, be quiet. Don't disturb me when I'm refining pills. The young man in black said. Wu Yang frowned and walked to the young man in black. He looked at the spiritual liquid floating in the furnace and asked suspiciously, "What kind of pill are you refining?" "You'll know later." The young man in black smiled mysteriously. A moment later, a dazzling pill flew out of the furnace. The young man in black reached out and grabbed it. What? Wu Yang was extremely curious. The young man in black opened his palm. This, Wu Yang looked at the pill in horror. The pill had 3 veins and was blood red as if it was cast from flesh and blood. It also emitted an extremely strong smell of blood. It's okay. The young man in black smiled. Wu Yang swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, "Brother Sean, aren't you afraid that the law enforcement elder will know that you're refining this pill?" The young man in black smiled faintly and said, "If you don't say it, I won't say it." "Who will know?" "But the main tower has a rule that forbids refining this kind of pill. If someone finds out, it won't be as simple as being expelled from the pill pagoda. I'm afraid it will implicate our entire Qilan tribe." Wu Yang was worried. "Don't worry, I'm doing it secretly. No one will know." The young man in black smiled confidently and threw the pill into his mouth. A shocking scene appeared. After the young man in black took the pill, the aura emitted from his body became stronger. Although it wasn't obvious, it did exist. Did you see that? This is simply a divine pill. As long as I continue to take it, it won't be long before I can step into the Battle Saint realm. As he spoke, the young man in black couldn't help but clench his fists. His eyes were filled with desire. "Brother Sean, this pill is indeed good. It can make your strength increase by leaps and bounds, but it's really too dangerous. You must think twice." Wu Yang was extremely anxious and tried his best to persuade him. "Why are you so indecisive? Let me tell you, I'm not the only one who wants to take this pill. You have to take it too," the young man in black said in a deep voice. "This pill is refined from human flesh and blood. If you want me to take it, I can't do it." Wu Yang's face paled as he shook his head. "Trash. Don't you understand the principle of the strong preying on the weak? If you want to become stronger, you have to do whatever it takes. Moreover, I'm doing this for your own good. Once I break through to the Battle Saint realm and enter the sacred grounds, the position of king will be empty. And now, there are thousands of people in our second tower's 9-star war sect. They have always coveted this position of king. And you are only an 8-star war sect. If you don't take another shortcut, you won't be able to break through to the 9-star war sect before I leave. Think about it, with your 8-star war sect cultivation, how can you compete with them for the position of king?" The young man in black said. This, Wu Yang hesitated. "Brother, although we are not blood brothers, we are all from the Qilan tribe. You have to be clear that I have no ill intentions towards you. You should also know that each of our 10 great tribes has 2 kings in the main tower. If you don't become the king of the second tower after I leave, then this balance will be broken. At that time, the disciples of our Qilan tribe will definitely be suppressed by the people of the other tribes. Therefore, the position of king of the second tower must be someone from my Qilan tribe. Do you understand?" The young man in black said with a deep meaning. Wu Yang frowned and asked, "Then when did you start to refine this kind of medicinal pill?" 3 years ago. The young man in black said. "It's been so long?" Wu Yang was shocked. The young man in black laughed. No one has discovered me for 3 whole years. Am I doing it secretly? Yes. Wu Yang nodded and asked again, then where do you usually go to look for prey? I definitely can't be in the Divine City, much less in the main tower. I always go outside the city to look for prey. Just keep your heart in your stomach. There are countless people in our central divine kingdom. There are people dying every day. No one will care. The young man in black smiled faintly. Wu Yang took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. That's right. The young man in black laughed and was very pleased. Wu Yang rubbed his head and smiled. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said, if I have the chance, I will refine Ancestor Mu and Qin Day, those 2 bastards, into pills. Don't worry. Anything is possible. Let's go. We will go outside the city to look for prey now. The young man in black patted Wu Yang's shoulder and then opened a portal. The 2 of them walked in one after another. And this young man in black was none other than the king of the 2nd tower, Wu Shan. 1st tower. Alchemy room number 10. Qin Feiyang had reached the most crucial step in refining the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Spiritual liquid fusion. And from the beginning to the end, Fatso and Yen Wei did not say a word. Even their breathing was deliberately lowered to the lowest level, for fear of disturbing Qin Feiyang. In the alchemy furnace, under the control of Qin Feiyang's mental strength, drops of spiritual liquid continued to fuse. Everything was going smoothly. But just as all the spiritual liquid was about to be successfully fused, there was a sudden rush of knocking on the door. At that moment, the spiritual liquid in the alchemy furnace was in a mess. Boom! The next moment, there was a loud explosion in the alchemy room. Thick smoke rose and instantly covered the entire room. That bastard, Qin Feiyang's angry roar also sounded in the alchemy room. Whoosh! 2 figures rushed out of the alchemy room and stood outside the lounge. It was Fatso and Yen Wei. Both of them were also covered in dust at this moment, but the anger on their faces could not be concealed. Thud! Accompanied by a series of footsteps, Qin Feiyang also walked out of the alchemy room. The clothes on his body had become tattered and tattered. His hair was also a mess. His face was covered in black ash. He looked more miserable than Yen Wei and Fatso. With a gloomy face, he walked to the door of the alchemy room and opened the stone door. He saw Mu Qing standing at the door. Looking at Qin Feiyang's current appearance, Mu Qing was stunned. Huh, what are you doing? You actually ended up like this? This is too funny, don't move, I want to record your current appearance and give it to your good friends to enjoy, following closely. Mu Qing held her stomach and laughed. She was rocking back and forth and tears were coming out. Qin Feiyang's expression became more and more gloomy. Especially that gaze, it was as if he wanted to eat someone. A moment later, seeing that Qin Feiyang did not say a word, Mu Qing also felt bored. She stopped making fun of him and asked curiously, "What's wrong? You still have the nerve to ask me what's wrong?" There was no suspense. Qin Feiyang was furious. He dragged Mu Qing into the alchemy room and closed the stone door with a bang. "Beat her up, I'll take responsibility if she dies." Next. Chapter 869. What's going on? One by one, the disciples walked out and looked at Qin Feiyang's alchemy room suspiciously. What's wrong? Mo Feng also opened the stone door and walked out. He looked at the disciples around him and asked. "I don't know." Everyone shook their heads. Mo Feng, the moment these 2 people arrived, they caused a ruckus in the 1st tower. "I really don't understand why you had to go out of your way to pick them up." "Yeah, isn't it good to let them go to the 2nd tower?" 2 young men in white said unhappily. Mo Feng glanced at the 2 of them and said indifferently, "This is Senior Brother Pei Yi's arrangement." If you guys are not convinced, you can go look for him directly. We are not convinced. The top alchemy rooms have always been occupied by those who are capable. What ability do those two have? That's right. If their mental strength is stronger than ours, we have nothing to say. But according to our inquiries, they only have a level 10 mental strength, while we have a level 13 mental strength. I would like to ask, why should we give them alchemy rooms 9 and 10? The two young men in white said angrily. They were the original owners of room number 9 and 10. Not long ago. Pei Yi asked Mo Feng to look for them and asked them to give the alchemy room to Qin Feiyang and Mo Feng. Due to Pei Yi's status in the first tower, they did not dare to disobey, but they had always been unhappy. Especially when they heard that Qin Feiyang and Mo Feng's mental strength was only at level 10, which was even worse than theirs. The resentment in their hearts grew stronger and stronger. Mo Feng sized up the two of them with an extremely cold expression. And the two young men in white were stronger than Mo Feng. 9-star war sect. But facing the current Mo Feng, they couldn't help but feel a trace of fear. Suddenly, Mo Feng's eyes flashed and said, "If you guys are really unhappy, you can challenge them." Really? You won't care? The two young men in white were stunned and hurriedly asked. I don't care. But in advance, you can't use despicable methods. They have to take the initiative to accept your challenge. Mo Feng said. The two young men in white were overjoyed and couldn't wait to head to the 10th alchemy room. He thought. With their level 13 spiritual power, wouldn't it be easy for them to deal with two level 10 spiritual power practitioners? Dong. The two of them walked to the door and knocked hard. Inside the pill refining room, Fatso was beating up Mu Qing. As for Mu Qing, her eyes were already swollen, and her entire body was covered in injuries. She was in an extremely sorry state. However, until now, he still couldn't figure out why Qin Feiyang wanted to beat him up. Wait a moment. Hearing the knock on the door, Qin Feiyang glanced at Mu Qing expressionlessly. Then, he looked at Fatso and said something. He turned around and walked to the door, opening it slightly. The two white-clothed youths immediately entered his line of sight. What's the matter? Qin Feiyang coldly glanced at the two of them. The two of them stuck their heads out and looked behind Qin Feiyang. They wanted to see what was going on. However, Qin Feiyang was blocking the door so that they couldn't see anything. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, "Is there a problem?" "Yes. We want to compete with you in alchemy. If we win, you have to return the pill refining room to us. If we lose, we won't disturb you anymore." The two of them said. Compete in alchemy? Qin Feiyang froze in shock. He looked past the two of them and happened to see Mo Feng standing in the corridor opposite. Alchemy rooms number 9 and 10 used to belong to them. Senior brother Pei Yi asked them to give them to you. Now, they want to challenge you to take back the alchemy rooms. Of course, you can refuse. Mo Feng secretly sent a voice transmission to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was suddenly enlightened. There's one more thing that I think there's a need to tell you. Actually, it's just a pretense that they want to take back the alchemy rooms. Their real purpose is to target you and embarrass you. Because they're also from the Scorpion tribe. Mo Feng said again, also secretly transmitting his voice. The Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the two young men in white. If you're still a man, don't back down and accept our challenge openly. Of course, if you refuse, we can't do anything to you. However, from now on, everyone in the Pill Pagoda will know that you're a spineless sissy. The two young men in white sneered. Trying to provoke me? How childish. Qin Feiyang sneered inwardly. Without saying a word, he directly swung his hand and closed the stone door with a bang. The two young men in white froze and stood in front of the stone door, unable to recover from their shock for a long time. They thought that after being provoked by them, Qin Feiyang would definitely accept their challenge. However, they didn't expect the other party to ignore them at all. They felt that in the other party's eyes, they were like two clowns who were fooling around. Bastard, what qualifications do you have to own alchemy room number 10? If you're still a man, come out and accept our challenge. Don't be like a tortoise, hiding inside. The next moment, the two of them flew into a rage out of humiliation and cursed in the corridor like shrews. Idiot. Mo Feng shook his head and turned to enter alchemy room number 3 without looking back. In fact, he also wanted Qin Feiyang to accept the challenge. This was because he was suspecting that Qin Feiyang's spiritual power of the 10th rank might also be an illusion. And he also had a purpose for telling Qin Feiyang the true identity of the two young men in white. In his opinion, the Scorpion tribe and Qin Feiyang had a deep grudge, and the two sides would definitely be at loggerheads. And when Qin Feiyang learned that the two were from the Scorpion tribe, he would definitely accept the challenge. However, he didn't expect that Qin Feiyang would not play by the rules at all and directly refuse. The two young men in white were still cursing and swearing, looking like they would not stop until they were dead. And the other disciples were also discussing unscrupulously. Some people said that Qin Feiyang had no guts. There were also people who said that Qin Feiyang was a person who relied on Lu Xingfeng to enter the main pagoda. There were even people who said that he was a useless waste from the beginning. But Qin Feiyang couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these. Because with his current temperament, these words could no longer cause waves in his heart. In the alchemy room. Who challenged you? Fatso asked. People from the Scorpion tribe. Qin Feiyang responded indifferently and looked down at Mu Qing, who was lying on the ground. I'm telling you, if you don't make it clear today, I'm not done with you. Mu Qing gritted his teeth and stared at him. The pain from all over his body made his face distorted. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light and said, continue to beat him. Okay. Fatso smiled, rubbed his hands, and walked towards Mu Qing. Seeing this, Mu Qing shrank his neck and quickly waved his hand. Don't, let's talk, Fatso said with a sneaky smile. Then do you know you're wrong? I'm wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Mu Qing nodded repeatedly, but suddenly frowned and said angrily, that's not right, what did I do wrong? Look at the alchemy room. Fatso said. Mu Qing turned his head to look. The wall of the alchemy room was made of a transparent material, so the situation inside could be clearly seen. It was not until now that Mu Qing noticed that the alchemy room was shrouded in black smoke, and the air was filled with a burnt smell. Did the furnace explode? He was slightly stunned, and the anger in his heart also burned. He looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, your furnace explodes, what does it have to do with me? Why did you beat me? If it weren't for you suddenly knocking on the door, would the furnace explode? Let me tell you, this time the boss is refining a very heaven-defying elixir. Even your Mu family can't afford it. Fatso said angrily. Humph. In this world, there is nothing that my Mu family can't afford. Tell me, what kind of elixir, I'll compensate you 10 times. Mu Qing said. Fatso sneered, then listened carefully. 9, shut up. But before Fatso said it, Qin Feiyang suddenly shouted. Fatso was stunned and immediately shut his mouth, and he felt lucky in his heart. If Qin Feiyang hadn't stopped him in time, he would have spilled the beans. Mu Qing glanced at the two, his eyes full of surprise. What kind of elixir actually made Qin Feiyang so vigilant? Go and take out the fire phoenix cauldron. Qin Feiyang walked to the chair and sat on it, the anger on his face had not dissipated. Okay. Fatso ran over, pushed open the door of the alchemy room, and soon ran out with the fire phoenix cauldron. But at this moment, the fire phoenix cauldron did not have the slightest light, and it looked very dim. Fatso put the fire phoenix cauldron on the ground. Qin Feiyang looked carefully for a moment and found that there was a very small crack somewhere in the fire phoenix cauldron. He couldn't help but feel a pain in his heart. Not only did he lose a 9 transformation dragon blood elixir, but he also wasted a 6th grade elixir furnace. This loss was too great. Fatso also noticed the crack, turned his head and stared at Mu Qing gloomily, and said, "Tell me, how are you going to compensate us for the loss?" "I'm telling you, don't go too far." "Yes. I disturbed your alchemy and caused your cauldron to explode. It's my fault, but you also beat me up. Look at me now. It's good enough that I didn't settle the score with you, but you still want to ask me for compensation. How dare you ask for it?" Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, "Continue to beat him up. Don't. I'll compensate, I'll compensate." Mu Qing's face turned pale, and he said hurriedly, "A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. He would deal with it first." Qin Feiyang smiled proudly and said, "I'm not greedy. Compensate me with a 6th grade elixir furnace and a 6th grade elixir fire, and I'll let this matter go." "What? 6th grade elixir fire?" Mu Qing's face darkened, and he said angrily, "Do you think that 6th grade elixir fire is cabbage that can be found everywhere? A 6th grade elixir fire is indeed rare, but for a young master like you, it shouldn't be rare. If I'm not wrong, you should have it on you now," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Fatso rubbed his hands and laughed. "If you don't give it to us, you know the consequences. Don't use your identity as the young master of the Mu family to threaten us. It's useless." Mu Qing couldn't help but feel weak. His identity as the young master of the Mu family was enough to deter others, but for Qin Feiyang and his group, it was completely useless. "Blame it on my bad luck. I'll give it to you." He sighed helplessly, took out a jade box, and threw it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang caught it in his hand, opened it, and saw a beautiful flame lying quietly in the box. Chapter 870. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and his battle chi surged, instantly erasing the blood contract of the elixir fire. Mu Qing's body trembled, and blood spilled from the corner of her mouth. Putting the elixir fire back into the jade box, Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing and said, "Where's the furnace?" "The furnace that Mo Feng gave me is still in the alchemy room. Go get it yourself." Mu Qing wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, gnashing her teeth and glaring at Qin Feiyang. "This bastard is simply a bandit. Don't look at me like that. Because even if you compensate me with a 6th grade elixir fire, you can't make up for my loss. Hey, don't say that I bullied you. Here's a healing elixir for you. Hurry up and recover." Qin Feiyang took out a healing elixir with 6 veins and threw it to Mu Qing. "Ah. You can already refine 6 veins?" Mu Qing looked at the healing elixir in shock. "How is it? Do you admire my boss very much?" Fatso said with a sneaky smile. "Humph." Mu Qing disdainfully raised her middle finger, took the healing elixir, got up and tidied her clothes. She looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Are you done?" Qin Feiyang said, "Are you ready to go to the Scorpion tribe?" "What do you think?" "I kindly asked you to go to the Scorpion tribe, but you beat me up without saying anything. Let me tell you, this is definitely not over." Mu Qing snorted coldly. "Anytime." Qin Feiyang sneered and said, "I'm going to refine another elixir. Go out and wait for me." Mu Qing's heart skipped a beat, and she said with an aggrieved face, "You beat me up. Why don't you let me take a look?" "Get out." Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold. "Fine, you win." Mu Qing glared at Fatso fiercely, waved her sleeves, and left angrily. Sigh, what a pity. After Mu Qing left, Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and walked into the alchemy room again. Then, with a wave of his hand, a gust of wind rose in the area, sweeping up all the black smoke and rushing out of the alchemy room. Next, Fatso ran up and closed the stone door. As for the 2 white-clothed youths, after cursing outside for a while, they probably felt bored and left. Yan Wei stood at the door of the alchemy room and asked, "Do you want us to stand guard outside? You can't appear in the main tower. Otherwise, you will be investigated." "Fatso, give me the herbs," Qin Feiyang said. Fatso immediately ran into the alchemy room and took out a set of ingredients for the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Pill. Qin Feiyang also took out the Scorching Sun Cauldron and placed it on the pill refining platform. He closed his eyes and concentrated. Several hundred breaths passed. He slowly opened his eyes. There were no distracting thoughts in his clear eyes. Immediately after, he mobilized his mental force and once again opened the furnace to refine pills. With the experience of refining for the first time, Qin Feiyang was already familiar with the temperature of various medicinal herbs. The entire process went very smoothly without any accidents. More than 500 breaths passed. All the spirit liquids had finally been refined. The next step was to fuse them. "Please don't let anyone knock on the door again," Fatso secretly prayed. Yan Wei's heart was also in his throat. "Ancestor Mu, don't be a tortoise, get out here. Let me tell you, if you don't accept our challenge, we will look for you every now and then, so that you won't be able to cultivate in peace." What he was afraid of came. The 2 white-clothed youths' arrogant voices sounded from outside again. "Damn it." Fatso and Yan Wei's expressions changed as they hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang. However, they were surprised to find that Qin Feiyang was not affected. What was going on? The 2 of them looked at each other. Another 100 breaths passed. Whoosh! A blood-colored divine light suddenly flew out of the blazing sun cauldron. Qin Feiyang reached out and grabbed it. It worked. Fatso and Yan Wei looked at each other and hurriedly ran to Qin Feiyang's side, staring at Qin Feiyang's tightly clenched hands. Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 of them and slowly opened his palm. The 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir immediately entered their vision. The 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir was similar in size to other elixirs. It was blood-red in color but did not have the slightest bloody aura. It was like a blood gem, emitting a hazy luster. The rich medicinal fragrance filled every corner of the elixir refinement room. Furthermore, this elixir even carried a faint dragon's might. The most eye-catching thing was the 6 elixir patterns. They were like 6 angelic halos that surrounded the elixir in a dazzling manner. "Boss, why don't I try it first and see how effective it is?" Fatso's eyes lit up and he drooled. He was not joking. That was because battle masters and battle sages could consume the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir. Why are you in such a hurry? With your current cultivation speed, you don't need to rely on the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir to increase your cultivation. Let's talk about it after you break through to the Battle Saint realm. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and directly handed the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir to Yan Wei. Yan Wei took the elixir and said, "Now, can you tell me what the use of this elixir is?" The effect of the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir is to increase the cultivation of battle masters and battle saints. In other words, as long as you consume it, you can instantly break through to the 9-star battle saint realm. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. What? Yan Wei was dumbfounded. There was actually such an elixir in this world? However, whether you can successfully break through in the end depends on your luck. Because the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir with 6 elixir patterns only has a 60% chance. Qin Feiyang said again. A 60% chance is already very high. Yan Wei muttered. Let's give it a try. Try your best to succeed in one go, so as not to waste any more 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixirs. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Yan Wei and Fatso into the castle. If he really succeeded, the aura of a 9-star battle saint would alarm everyone in the first tower. Therefore, breaking through inside the castle was the safest. Yan Wei looked at the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Elixir, took a deep breath, quickly put it into his mouth, and then sat down cross-legged. It was a small elixir, but it contained an incomparably shocking amount of energy. Yan Wei felt it the most clearly. The moment the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir melted, the energy was like a torrent of beasts, crazily surging into his body. His 5 viscera, 6 bowels, 4 limbs, and hundreds of bones trembled under the impact of the energy. He felt that his body was about to explode. At the same time, he could also clearly feel that every cell in his body, every inch of his flesh and blood, was gradually transforming under the refinement of the energy. Time passed breath by breath. Yan Wei's pores slowly overflowed some black substance, emitting a foul smell. This was the impurities in his flesh and blood. His physical body was purer than before. His spirit and soul were also improving step by step. And his aura was also getting stronger. It seems that he should be able to succeed on his first try. Fatso muttered. Last time, when the double-winged snow eagle opened the 6th level of the Gate of Potential, the small creation elixir that only had 5 elixir veins was successfully opened. And now, the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir that Yan Wei took had 6 elixir veins. There was no reason for him to fail. Another dozen breaths passed. Yan Wei's aura had already climbed to the peak of an 8-star battle saint, half a step away from becoming a 9-star battle saint. But at this moment, his soaring aura suddenly slowed down. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. Was this a sign of failure? How could this be? Is the energy of the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir not enough? Fatso couldn't help but feel nervous. Old Yan, do your best. Yes, don't give up. Although it's a little slow, your aura is still rising, there's still a chance. Wolf King and the other beasts also started to cheer him on. Yes, the herbs for the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir are so hard to find, we can't give up so easily. We must succeed. Yan Wei roared in his heart, his hands tightly clenched together. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop the decline of his aura. Qin Feiyang frowned and decisively asked Fatso for another set of herbs for the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir. He left the ancient castle and started to refine the elixir again. The third refinement was even smoother than the second. In less than 200 breaths, he appeared in the ancient castle again. And at this moment, Yan Wei had already stopped breaking through. The aura all over his body had also fallen to its original level. He sat listlessly on the ground, his face full of disappointment and frustration. Fatso and the others were beside him trying to persuade him in a low voice. Obviously, he had failed. Qin Feiyang walked in front of Yan Wei and laughed. This was originally a matter of luck. There's nothing to be depressed about, continue. This, Yan Wei raised his head and looked at the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir in Qin Feiyang's hands. His heart was filled with desire, but at the same time, he was also very nervous. He was afraid that he would fail again. Since I've already taken the step, I must continue. I can't waste it for nothing, right? Don't be too burdened. Even if I fail this time, I still have 7 sets of medicinal ingredients. I don't believe that an entire 10 sets of medicinal ingredients won't be able to help you successfully break through. Qin Feiyang said, his stubborn temper rising. Even if he had to use up all the medicinal ingredients today, he would still send Yan Wei to the 9 Stars War sect. Hearing these words and looking at Qin Feiyang's sincere expression, Yan Wei was extremely moved. Thank you. He slowly raised his arm and grabbed the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir from Qin Feiyang's hands. At this moment, even if there were thousands of words, they would not be able to express the gratitude in his heart towards Qin Feiyang. He could only repay the young man in front of him with all his might. The disappointment and frustration in his eyes finally disappeared, replaced by a firm will. Without the slightest hesitation, he swallowed the 9 revolutions dragon blood elixir. The majestic energy once again exploded in his body, like waves of anger, surging towards every part of his body. Boom! His aura once again soared. In less than 10 breaths, it once again soared to the peak of the 8 Stars War Saint realm. However, the previous situation happened again. Fatso and the others were anxious. But the most anxious one was still Yen Wei. I want to succeed. I can't let down Qin Feiyang's expectations. Break for me. He clenched his fists tightly and suddenly roared, his teeth bared and his eyes cracked. Boom! The next moment, the gradually declining aura once again roared out from his body like a volcanic eruption. At this moment, his black hair and clothes fluttered, imperceptibly emitting a shocking oppressive force. That aura was soaring in a straight line. Boom! All of a sudden, there was a dull explosion in his body. The shackles were finally broken. His aura had finally risen to that of a 9 stars war saint. Success!